Hello everyone. Today, a very interesting story awaits you. And before it starts, I would like to ask you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. The story begins with the girl announcing to the guys that they should all know what it means to be in this place. 19-year-old students who fail to reach level 6 will be expelled from school. Those whose names she will now read can go about their business. As she read out the list, Gu thought that he had been training for more than 6 years, but had only reached level 5. He lacked just a little to remain in the clan of immortals. When he heard his name, he was very disappointed, because indeed the guy was very close to staying. Since our hero was very nervous, he immediately began to lose consciousness. Everyone present did not understand what had happened to him. After some time, when the young man suddenly came to his senses, he saw his sister Saya next to him. The young man looked at her in surprise and asked why there were so many different bubbles around her silhouette. The girl did not understand what he was talking about and said that he had not reached the 6th level within the allotted time, so he would be expelled from school. But the 5th level is enough to ensure the safety of your family for the rest of your life. The guy ignored everything she said and repeated that there really were some strange bubbles around the eldest. Saya again didn't understand what he was talking about and asked if Gu even knew that he had lost consciousness for half an hour. He must understand that there are many people who cannot enter the immortal door. Our hero jumped out of bed, interrupted her, and repeated that there were indeed some strange spheres around her. The girl thought that he was pestering her, so she was indignant that how Xiaoyan even dares to behave like that. In fact, the guy was trying to reach the vial near her head. As soon as he managed to touch it, he immediately began to feel something being absorbed into his body. The sister sharply pushed him away from her and exclaimed that he was restless. One of the students came to check how the young man was feeling and was very surprised to see him slammed into the wall. An irritated seer, passing by him, ordered to make sure that Gu left as soon as possible. The young man muttered that he had had enough. It seemed that all his ribs were broken. It was all over. Hay reported that he saw everything. Gu was about to leave, but he dared to touch the hands of the first beauty of the sect. Our hero was only worried about why the bubbles around him were different. As the young man continued to say that doesn't he know that the girl is an inner disciple ranked first in physical skills, Xiaoyan reached for the sphere near his head. When there was an awkward pause, the young man exclaimed that this was not what he thought. Qian immediately started running away, shouting that he was a pervert. Gu tried to explain that the guy had completely misunderstood everything. Xiaoyan then looked around and saw that there were bubbles of different colors floating around the room. He didn't understand at all what was happening, after which the young man decided to start gently touching each of them. It dawned on him that when he punctured these bubbles, his body could absorb their energy. It's simply incredible that our hero will be able to become the greatest and leave an imprint on history. It seems that vitality is an attribute that enhances one's cultivation ability. Even this low-grade stone added as much as 97 units. After it is absorbed, the original bubble property disappears and turns into a countdown. Looks like it's time for the next recovery. Just now, the elder sister's bone was bubbling. The feeling of absorption is completely different from vitality. He does not understand at all why he suddenly began to see these spheres. However, if he is given such an ability, then he cannot waste it. After some time, the young man asked in surprise whether Xiaoyan really was a pervert. Qianhei replied that it was very good that he had failed the test and would soon be expelled from the sect. Suddenly, our hero appeared behind him, put his hand on his shoulder, and exclaimed that he had found him. The young man immediately began to run away from him, shouting for him to leave him immediately. Gu muttered that how could he let him go if the guy had what he needed most? Hay tried to run away from him and shouted that he would stop chasing him. Gu replied that if he does not run away from him, then he will stop chasing him. He thought to himself that only by absorbing wood attribute points could he revive his talent. If a guy leaves the clan, then there may not be such an opportunity in the future. Then, as he ran past another young man, he saw the bubbles he needed around him. The expression on his face immediately changed, as this was exactly what he needed. Vu immediately suspected something was wrong and began to run away screaming so that this pervert would not come close to him. After some time, a huge crowd was already running away from our hero, who were indignant that no one could help them. Gu shouted that they should stop immediately and let him absorb a little more. I thought to myself that if he didn't do this, he would be kicked out of the sect today. Suddenly, Hay stopped and said that there were already a lot of them. Why are they even running away from this crazy person? He only has the 5th level of studying ki. The young man asked why they were running away from him at all. He doesn't eat people. One of the guys said that he heard that people who are possessed by a female ghost absorb male energy. The guy woke up from fainting, and perhaps she possessed him. Qian replied that, in principle, only his fist could deal with this situation. Xiaoyan exclaimed that if they want to fight, then it is fine which one of them will be first. I thought to myself that I wouldn't have to worry about how to take the rest of the bubbles from him. The young man exclaimed that what was the point of fighting him one-on-one? They'll just fall on him together and beat the crap out of him. The young man replied that this was also possible. I noted to myself that now I don't need to worry about how to approach such a large number of people. While the guy was thinking that there was no need to fight head-on, but rather concentrate on absorbing these bubbles, a fist flew into his jaw. The young man thought to himself that, fortunately, he took advantage of the opportunity and absorbed his attribute. Otherwise, everything would have been in vain. Meanwhile, everyone else began to attack him, and he mentally threatened that he would return these blows in double size. While the young man was attacked from all sides, he collected the balls he needed. After a moment, he began to realize that with so many attribute points at once, his cultivation base seemed like it might not be able to withstand it. Suddenly, the older sister appeared and asked what was going on here. Our hero immediately grabbed the girl by the leg and began to beg her to save him from these abnormal people. But instead of the help he needed, Saya kicked him in the face with all her might. Gu noted to himself that this blow was too sneaky and she was a real devil in the flesh. Looks like he made her really angry earlier. After all, she is still the first genius of the inner sect, which is responsible for monitoring the outer sect. This is bad because it still lacks bubbles. Pointing the sword at him, Saya asked if he remembered her words that those who had not reached the 6th level of ki should leave the outer sect. The young man muttered that he was actually at the 6th level of ki imprisonment. The girl stated that she was the head disciple of the Green Cloud sect. Did he really think that she couldn't see his cultivation level? At the moment, the guy has barely reached the 5th level. But of course, this is a little different from what it was in the morning. But the 5th is the 5th, and now let him go. She won't blame him for what happened earlier. But if Gu continues to lie like this, then Sia will destroy his cultivation. Hay said that he understands that he wants to stay in the sect, but it is very important to reach the 6th level at the age of 18. This is a test of whether a guy can break through to the next level in the future. The young man again objected that he was in 6th place. If no one believes him, then let the elder sister see for herself. The girl noted that he was too stubborn. Let him remember that if the young man has not achieved it, he will be destroyed by it. If this turns out to be true, then the young man will get everything he wants. Saya Sinsyu is not going to go back on her words. Everyone present discussed that he must have gone crazy. The sister is the first genius in the clan with enormous talent. Her cultivation had already reached the peak of the Yuan realm. She only has one step left to reach the next sphere. He is an external disciple who was expelled. How did it even occur to him to suggest a duel? Our hero thought to himself, "What another duel?" He seems to be taking a test to see if he has reached level 6. Therefore, the longer a guy shows the strength of this rank, the higher the chance that Gu will pass him. Now, to achieve the desired effect, we need more balls. She has the attribute of diligence, which is the first to be eliminated. This means that what he needs is only the vital forces and the intention of the sword. From his experience, vitality is the most important thing. It directly affects cultivation ability. There is also root bone, which can improve energy absorption efficiency. But the young man doesn't know what the intention of the ball is, since he has not yet come across it. Meanwhile, the girl said to attack and demonstrate all her abilities. Xiaoyan countered that she had already reached the peak of the Yuan realm. She is 2 whole levels taller than him. Sia can defeat him with one left, so he seems to have a hard time showing his true strength. The sister replied that she would be able to tell what level he was immediately after the guy lunged. Since this is a test, she will not take the initiative into her own hands so she can calmly attack. The young man noted to himself that she had swallowed the bait. Now, he would accept her life force first. After which, the young man warned her that she should be careful and rushed to attack. As soon as our hero approached her, the girl immediately jumped to the side. He was about to catch the life force, but unfortunately it dodged too quickly. Gu thought to himself that he leaned on her from the side of zeal, and she went to the other, so he couldn't grab the vital forces that were on the left. When the young man made another attempt, his sister dodged again, and he noted that she was very flexible. Then, Sinsu put the sword on his shoulder and said that it was too bad, he didn't even qualify for the 5th level. Seeing the intention of the sword near him, our hero decided to try to take it first. While he was busy thinking, Saya pushed him forcefully and exclaimed, "How dare Shaoyan get distracted during a fight?" Then she told me to just give up. He will go to the mountains as soon as it becomes possible, but let him just forget about the cultivation base. She doesn't care about that. The young man asked to wait a minute. Shouldn't he now make the next move? After which, the young man suddenly flew up to her, and she barely managed to dodge the blow of the sword. After which he noted to himself that he should not lose the opportunity to capture another bubble. It's still very convenient that only he can see these things. Gu never thought that the sword's intent could help him reach the 6th level, and the life force of the #1 expert of the internal sect will be a gift for him, in honor of breaking the 6th rank. The sister placed the sword on his shoulder again and exclaimed that it was simply impossible how he managed to create the aura of the sword. As a rule, only people who have trained in fencing for many years can master it. How did he, an external student, manage to do this? Our hero thought to himself why this woman kept poking him with a sword. He said out loud that it was because of her. The girl's bet was so tempting that everyone would desperately want to win. After which the young man clarified whether it turned out that he had passed the test. Saya replied that she hoped that he would have at least a drop of conscience when taking the exam for the inner sect. Gu exclaimed that, actually, about her promise. Then he began to quickly jabber that he was just joking. Because speaking in fact, the guy was very afraid that he would be kicked out of the sect, which is why he had to fight with her. The eldest replied that when he finished chattering, he should come to the inner door and tell her what was coming. The young man muttered that he would really have to go look for her if he wanted to find a really good sword. Although it's better to forget about it for now and first go to the Pavilion of Tibetan Scriptures. It's a shame that external disciples can only enter level 1, but the assassin sword technique he has mastered seems to be considered the best. Gu heard that good practice can even control the earth's energy. Most of the outer sect disciples' attributes were absorbed by him, and the essence stone disappeared. The life force of these items is even more pathetic. The trial to advance to the inner courtyard, which lasts 6 months, is in any case not to be missed. Shaoyan can only go there to test himself. After some time, he went to the forest near Mount Silian in order to look at the local animals. His guesses turned out to be correct. Monsters also have attributes, but he naturally didn't expect to immediately encounter the 2nd rank at the very beginning. Monster levels 1 and 2 are equal to key imprisonment, and levels 3 and 4 in turn are equal to Zuyuan. 5 and 6 are the sphere of condensed truth, 7 and 8 are Saiwan pills. Well, in the end, 9 corresponds to the practice of the Shanghai sphere. This bear is much stronger than him, so you need to be careful. After some time, one of the inner disciples killed one of the angry animals. Then he said that the one who dared to pester Saya Sinsu really came to the Silian Mountains completely alone. The guy explained that yes. Gu did not have enough cultivation level to stay in their school. Therefore, he could not bear the shock and lost consciousness. The sister who was in charge that day saved him. As a result, this garbage woke up and wanted to roll on Sia, who flew out of the bedroom with a wild scream. But he did not have time to finish speaking, as he immediately received a slap in the face. Hua Sharon's inner disciple wiped his hand with a handkerchief in disgust and asked how the young man even dared to call her by name. He explained that initially she wanted to expel him, but the guy reached the 6th level of ki by pure chance. In the end, the eldest lost the bet, so he can ask for anything. The young man really didn't like the information he heard, and he threateningly asked where that impudent man was at the moment. Meanwhile, our hero tried to fight off the bear and thought that the strength of this wild animal in rage mode was no less than 1,000 kilograms. It is simply impossible to overcome, so you must at least try to take possession of the largest number of attributes. After a moment, he managed to reach fury, strength and defense, which increased the points of each of these skills. After which he rushed to attack using the lone assassin's sword technique. The guy could not even think that this rage could be so strong. Fortunately, most of the attributes of demonic beasts are external. That's why goo absorbs his bubbles to weaken him. It's a pity that this bear has no vitality. Perhaps the reason is the low level. Suddenly, a voice said that this was not bad. The outer disciple who was about to be expelled from the sect and the one who was hanging at the 5th level of ki just a couple of days ago was able to kill this wild beast single-handedly. Sharon added that he actually reached level 6. The guy was even a little surprised. Perhaps our hero will tell you how he did it. The young man asked who he was to demand something from him. One of the henchmen exclaimed that this was Hua's elder brother. He is in the top 30 disciples of the inner sect. When a guy asks about something, it is better to answer obediently. Xiaoyan asked for forgiveness and replied that he did not even remember who was in second place. The student was angry that he really considered himself the smartest. After which he gave the order to go and teach this ungrateful child a lesson. This did not frighten our hero at all, and he deftly dealt with everyone who approached him. Everyone present was surprised where he got such speed. Was he really a body cultivator? Then they decided that most likely it was some kind of cheating skill. Gu thought to himself that he spent a lot of energy on the beast, and these three are at least at the 8th level of ki imprisonment. Although he dodged their blows, there was still a student with an unknown level of development behind them. Then he said that he had never met him before, never knew him before, and did not know what he needed from him. So let him clarify the situation. Sharon replied that although he had no contact with him, if the guy could help Sinsu avoid the shameful promise, then wouldn't that make him a hero? Plus, maybe she will be so grateful to him that she will develop feelings. Wouldn't that be a good story? The young man stated that the young man wanted him dead for some reason. He immediately began to deny everything and say that the mountain range is so big and he dared to come here with his 6th level. It would be logical that his bones would accidentally be eaten by monsters. Our hero decided to distract him and exclaimed that the older sister had really come here too. Then he took advantage of the moment and started to run. The young man was indignant at how he even dared to fool him. Xiaoyan shouted from the tree that the girl would do everything to fulfill her promise to him. Then he added that he was kissing everyone on the cheek since it was time for him to move on. Hua shouted to chase him immediately. He heads into the depths of the Silian Mountains. The guy thought on the way that the top 30 disciples of the inner sect should already be in the Chuan realm. Moreover, those 3 scum had already reached the 8th level of ki. He doesn't stand a chance in a fair fight. Even if he absorbed the snake's speed attribute, he would still be unable to resist them. If he had been given at least a month, he could have killed them without any problems. Anyway, for now, he can only hide in the mountains to test whether he can use the powers of the monster beasts to defeat them. Meanwhile, some girl in the forest loudly exclaimed why these small fish were delayed so much. The man in the tree announced that the target had been found and fired a flare because backup was needed. When he decided to suddenly jump on the girl, she immediately repulsed his attack with one blow. Our hero noted to himself that he seemed to have encountered some powerful monster. This woman is too strong, and the young man has never met anyone like her in all the years of his life. This attribute alone is at least higher than the Chuan realm. It turns out that that girl is at the level of condensed truth. After some time, a huge crowd of mercenaries appeared around the girl. She asked if the guys wanted to keep the palace. Their leader replied that the princess was all alone in the mountains. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and her pedigree looks very sweet. While Gu was absorbing the spheres, she said that she heard that the heavenly palace is full of masters. Even a small warrior must have a Chuan sphere. I wonder who he is, one of the 12 gods or one of the 4 officials. The man replied that the wanderer of the god of the day shows his deepest respect for the princess. Let him go with him to meet Master Sinzun. The girl, with a challenge in her voice, asked what he would do if she didn't go anywhere. One of the 12 gods replied that then he would have to bring her by force. The princess said that let the one who needs her come himself. The god of the day replied that such an important matter had been reported to the heavenly officials, and the master was expected to know that she was there. Meanwhile, our hero was thinking that at the moment there was so much light energy around him, and he needed to absorb as much of it as possible. At the same time, on the other hand, the guys continued to look for our hero. One of them said that it was strange. That kid was only at the 6th level of ki. How could he run so fast? The girl exclaimed that she was afraid that there would be more monsters there. They didn't know if they could defeat them. The guy said that she is a coward. Brother Hua is already in the middle of the Qi-Yuan sphere. Why is she so afraid? Noticing that the birds were flying up, the inner disciple noted that there seemed to be some movement there. It looks like that impudent man met a monster. When the young man was discovered, the young man immediately attacked him, shouting for him to die. Xiaoyan noted to himself that they were all here and that was great. There's just a little bit left to do. Our hero immediately began to run towards the princess and shout that there were killers there and help was needed. These people killed the samurai for no reason and deserved to be punished. They must be caught. When the god of the day asked who they were, the young man shouted that they should answer the question he asked. The guy thought to himself that they were masters and it was better not to talk too much. Then he introduced himself and said that he belonged to the Tinyun sect. They have an order to capture Gu Xiaoyan, an external disciple who was expelled. The young man was indignant at what kind of nonsense he was talking about because the young man didn't even know him. The head of the samurai noted that it had somehow become too noisy, so he gave the order to kill everyone. Our hero tried to object that under no circumstances should this be done, as it is too cruel. But it was too late. The mercenaries rushed to attack. The guys were angry that they were now being persecuted because of this garbage. They need to escape somehow. Xiaoyan, meanwhile, thought that all these warriors were at a high level, so it was impossible to fight without a plan. Looking at the princess, the guy noted that apparently she was not one of these 7 people. In other words, behind her back is the safest place to be, as she is incredibly strong and can defend herself. When he got a little closer to her, he noticed that she simply had a murderous aura. Surprisingly, this is such a new attribute. That time, the aura of Sia's sword helped him a lot. I wonder if he'll get lucky again. The guy quickly rushed forward in order to catch the sphere he needed. But suddenly, the girl stopped him and prevented him from getting too close to what he needed. After which she completely pushed our hero away from her some distance back. Still, the young man managed to grab the sphere with the murderous aura that he was so eager for. Then the young man began to merge with this powerful energy and immediately felt a surge of strength. The princess did not understand what was happening and how he managed to get her ability. The samurai shouted that this boy had an aura like a girl. It may be associated with blood, so you can't let it go. After which the mercenaries rushed to attack, but the girl dealt with them, one might say, with one left hand. Attacking, the head said that he had heard that 3 years ago the princess had reached the sphere of condensed truth. So now he, the god of the day, would be able to feel the full power of blood. Her Highness immediately put up a defense and exclaimed that he would never be able to cope with her. Hua Sharon didn't understand what kind of blood he was talking about at first, but then it dawned on him that it was probably the reincarnation of blood. His companion asked what we were talking about. Let him explain in more detail if he knows. The guy replied that people who have been reborn have the talent that all immortal cultivators dream of. Their development abilities are different. The speed is many times higher than that of ordinary people. If they can survive, they will surpass the Shanhei realm in strength. They say blood is an ancient creature. It recognized only one person as its partner for life and remained faithful to him to the end. The person who can reincarnate her must be a genius. That was until the Holy Land discovered another effect, the elixir. Several great masters learned about it when they added blood to their pills. The resulting effect could help them surpass the Shanhei realm. Since then, blood reincarnations were no longer considered geniuses. Each reborn was sent to the Holy Land, where they were raised as an elixir. Since they are constantly reborn, they were considered a limitless source, but the materials for the remedy learned of their fate. Each reincarnation is reflected in the heavens as a killer star. Therefore, when the blood entered the mortal world, the Holy Land went hunting. Eventually, the entire dynasty was destroyed, after which he shouted to our hero that it turned out that he was connected with blood. If the clan finds out, he will definitely be kicked out. The guy thought to himself that it turns out that this woman is the reincarnation of blood. It turns out that after he absorbed her murderous aura, he was also mistaken for one of them. The princess, meanwhile, very successfully and without much difficulty dealt with the god of the day. Suddenly, one of the 4 heavenly officials named Seuchian appeared on the battlefield. Chao Bu, along with his samurai, immediately began to bow and say that they greeted the Lord of Heaven. The man said that the blood did not appear for 3 years. They did a good job finding her. Upon returning to the heavenly palace, a reward awaits them. He will deal with this girl, as for the stupid fish, but he didn't have time to finish, as he was interrupted. Hua exclaimed that he was a disciple of the Qinyan sect. The guys ended up in this place by mistake while they were trying to catch the intruder. If he doesn't mind, they could help him catch the blood. After which he pointed his finger at our hero and added that he had done bad things in the sect. The young man pursued him on orders and completely accidentally interfered with them. Gu noted to himself that there was one more strong monster. "We urgently need to get out while we still have the opportunity. You shouldn't drag everyone along with you." The heavenly official gave orders to his henchmen to immediately catch him and bring him back. But the princess quickly flew up to the god of the day and declared that they were not finished with him yet. Xin Luan's path was blocked by Seiyu Qian, who said that now he was her opponent. The she-devil protects the child who has reached the area of key imprisonment. This is quite interesting. She thinks whether he will really be able to escape from the heavenly palace. Sometime later, our hero reflected that he never thought that even after absorbing the monster's agility attribute, he would not be able to break away from this guy. When the man disappeared from sight, the young man thought that he had left altogether and it was safe. In fact, Bu simply moved to the tree, after which, with a cry, "Die!" the young man rushed to attack the guy, expecting to take him by surprise. But Shaoyan sharply jumped to the side and did not allow himself to be struck to death. It turned out that the god of the day hit someone's nest and broke large eggs. The young man noted that it seemed that even the deities were not very good. Does he even fight or steal eggs? The man said he thought he had set a trap to catch him. Suddenly, a gigantic snake hit the young man with its huge tail, after which she tightly grabbed the god of the day with her long body and began to hiss menacingly. Gu explained that this monster is a python that has reached rank 4. Now his strength is at the level of Xuyuan region. This creature always appears when someone wants to covet its nest. It's a shame that someone was so thoughtless as to damage this monster's balls. Therefore, let Cao prepare to feel the full wrath of a rank 4 demonic beast. The man grabbed him by the mouth and declared that some pathetic monster of such a low level was not capable of killing him. Our hero came closer to him and asked if he was sure about himself, after which he wanted to strike him with a sword, but the god of the day covered himself with a python at the last moment. Then she said that Gu had made a fatal mistake. He decided to use the snake to get rid of him, but he left one thing out. In order to become one of the 12 wandering gods of the Yuan kingdom in the heavenly palace, it is necessary to reach the realm of condensed truth. The guy in the blink of an eye was behind him, inflicted a wound and said that, "What nonsense." Bo just started to notice that he was slowing down, after which the young man decided to simply play for time in order to win it. The god of the day muttered that this was impossible. A pitiful boy, key imprisonment area level, cannot defeat him. As Cao fell to the ground, our hero revealed that his sword was coated in king cobra venom. To be honest, he was saving it for Hua Sharon, but if not for him, Shao Yan would not have been able to defeat him. I thought to myself that it was sad to realize this, but it seems that after moving to the level of condensed truth, key cultivation becomes internal, which means there are no bubbles with vitality. Also take the mask with you. Perhaps it will be useful to him in the future. Suddenly, Sharon appeared, looked around and asked in shock that the god of the day was really dead. Our hero replied that they had chosen a dangerous path. It's better not to mess with him. Hua exclaimed that this was simply impossible. Even he, at the Chuan domain level, could not cope with a heavenly palace cultivator. How could such a worthless external disciple defeat him? In any case, the man fought with the python, and the young man only meanly attacked him from behind. Our hero replied that this, of course, was an interesting idea, but it was he who set the demonic beast on him. Sharon ordered his subordinates to immediately catch him and deliver him to the Lord of Heaven. But as soon as they approached the young man, he immediately threw them aside. The young man was indignant that it was not him. This is not the owner of the 6th level of Ki. How could a guy knock over 2 level 8 masters in one fell swoop? Our hero said that all this time he could not understand with what joy they were trying to kill him. Does he really want to please Sister Saya that much? It turns out that a young man can kill someone he sees for the first time without looking, even if he doesn't hold a grudge against him, doesn't it? Hua replied that if he so wants to know the reason, then let him take into account his weakness. Killing him is the easiest option. Gu thought to himself that after all, this trash is in the middle of the Yuan sphere. This means that head-on will definitely lose. He has much more energy, which means he will have to finish quickly. The guy should grab the chance to get him off his game and hit him with all his might. After which he began to shout that if he wanted to kill him so much, then let him try. After which the young man rushed past his opponent at the speed of light, so that it was impossible to even catch him with a glance. The inner disciple wondered how this was possible. This speed is, at a minimum, the level of technology on Earth. Once in the tree, Xiaoyan asked what happened. Is it really possible that a person who is in the top 30 cannot keep up with an external disciple who was expelled from the clan? I thought to myself that it was simply the absorbed attributes of that huge python that accelerated it even more. Meanwhile, the young man became angry and shouted that he would still beg for mercy on his knees. Our hero thought to himself that now they will check how much stronger he has become. Gu repelled his attack with such force that the guy simply flew back some distance. Xiaoyan then put a sword to his throat and asked how it felt to be beheaded by a disciple like him. Hua was indignant that this was simply impossible. The guy is only at the 6th level of studying Qi, and he is in the middle of gathering Qi. The young man simply cannot defeat him with one blow. Our hero thought to himself that this was not bad. The combination of these abilities can defeat even someone like this in more than one fell swoop. He stated out loud that he did not expect him to be so weak. Hua noted that although he was reckless, it seems that the opponent himself did not expect that he would be able to repel the blow. Then he said that he fell into his hands through negligence. You need to fight once in a while if you don't chicken out. Our hero heard screams and stomping, after which he realized that the heavenly soldiers would now find them. The enemy took advantage of the moment and began to run towards them, shouting that that boy was there. Xiaoyan thought to herself that this guy is really merciless to himself. He even hurt himself on purpose to escape. There are a lot of samurai in the forest and also an official of an unknown level. It's better to get out of here as soon as possible. With his new speed, this shouldn't be a problem, but he felt as if the princess had helped him escape at that moment. The young man began to be tormented by doubts because he needed to forget about running away if life was precious. But still, our hero returned back and noted that everyone had gone somewhere. It's kind of strange. Who actually won? But in general, what's the difference? If there is no one there, then he can calmly return back to the clan because everything around is still too dangerous. Suddenly, an official appeared behind him and asked if he was not the one she was trying to save. Did he really come back to help her? How touching it all is. The young man realized that the best way out of this situation would be to simply run away. But the man did not allow him to do this with the help of his magical abilities, after which he offered to place bets and see if the girl would come to his aid. The guy exclaimed that the gentleman was mistaken. He is just a minor external disciple. He has never even heard his name, so the man can let him go. Unexpectedly, the heavenly official replied that he just needed to check one thing. Yanqing knows very well what her blood affiliation with the Holy Land means. Then why did she leave the palace and move to the Silian Mountains alone? The young man exclaimed in surprise that what other palace could it really be the princess? The heavenly official replied that he did not know how. The maiden is the daughter of Emperor Yan of the Great Yuan Kingdom. So let this kid let Sayuchen check his suspicions right now. Our hero thought to himself how Yan could even come to his aid and what he was counting on. It seems today is his last day. But suddenly, the girl materialized in front of him and repelled the attacker's attack. Then he said that the princess escaped danger. Then why did she come back? After which he noted that the old man guessed correctly and said that the young man was blessed. The princess exclaimed irritably that he was talking too much as possible. Then she unexpectedly and sharply attacked him with her royal dragon key. The man noted that the girl is really strong, however. If she wants to defeat him, then her kai is still not enough. When the heavenly official began to attack her, he asked the question that she had seriously decided to take his blow. After holding off such a powerful attack, the princess crouched down and looked very weakened. Our hero began to panic because he did not understand what to do. Even Yan Qin is no match for him. Suddenly, a sphere containing royal dragon key rolled to the young man's feet. As he began to absorb it, the young man noted that this attribute was incredibly powerful. Meanwhile, the heavenly official shouted that he was now going to break her royal dragon key with one blow. The man has a wonderful chance to destroy the princess today, and he will definitely take advantage of it. Unexpectedly, the guy rushed to attack him, shouting that dreaming is not harmful. With all the power he has gathered so far, he has the most powerful sword, which is even more powerful than the one Hua swung, after which he struck, shouting for the heavenly official to immediately give him his life. The man was indignant at how Gu even dared to attack him because he could handle him with one hand. But suddenly, a millimeter away from him, a powerful blow occurred again, which he barely managed to dodge. The princess thought that this was a great opportunity, since the old madman was careless. Then she flew up to him and dealt a powerful blow in order to disorient him. Then she grabbed the young man's hand and exclaimed that she needed to run away as quickly as possible. After some time, she reported that that official was wounded by her, so she would not follow them for the time being. So let him quickly return to the Qin Yun sect. When asked what about her, the girl replied that she was the ruler of a great country. Naturally, someone will take her back. The young man asked her to be careful, since that devil could catch up with her again at any moment. The princess looked at him carefully and said that she still did not know his name. Our hero introduced himself and said that he was an external disciple of the Qin sect, but now he had a chance to become an internal one. Her Highness thanked the young man for saving her. It was unexpected. The young man objected that it was Yan who returned to help him. In general, why did she do this? Because even the old devil suspected that she would come. The princess did not have time to answer anything as her subordinates flew in to pick her up. They immediately began to apologize for being late and scared her. Men deserve to die. The elder would like to ask the girl to return to the palace. He sent people to search the place. The samurai will not allow the demon to escape. After some time, the guy reached his clan and noted that he had finally returned. Gu just wanted to go outside to get some vital energy to speed up his cultivation, but ended up doing something else altogether. From now on, it is better to go out less and stay in the sect in order to calmly gain strength. Hay started running towards him, saying that there were 3 days left before the inner sect exam, and he had disappeared somewhere. They cannot miss this semi-annual test. Our hero replied that if his brother had not reminded him of this, the young man would have forgotten. Charjin whispered in his ear one question that worried him, whether Shaoyan had offended anyone outside. Gu replied no, and asked what happened. The friend replied that yesterday, someone from the inner sect came to inquire about his whereabouts. The young man began to guess that it was Hua Sharon, who returned to the clan earlier. The guy added that people like him could easily kill them. It's better to try not to provoke them. Gu thanked him and said that he would avoid that person from now on. He thought to himself that his brother simply didn't know his current cultivation level, so he should accept his good intentions. Qian added that the good thing is that their outer sect is a place where finding someone is not so easy. He will tell everyone else not to divulge his whereabouts. But by the way, there's another person who was also interested in where our hero was. The young man asked in surprise who else. He doesn't remember offending so many people. The young man noted that Gu is very forgetful. Actually, last time he humiliated her, had a fight, and now he's in debt. Shaoyan realized that he was talking about Xia's sister and asked what she wanted from him. Did something happen? The brother replied that he could not know this, so he had better go and ask her himself. 3 days later, the day of the intersect entrance exams arrived and all the disciples gathered. Saya announced that this time, the top 10 runners-up during the semi-annual external exam will receive a medium-quality pristine stone. The first 3 places are Kei cultivation pills. The first place winner will receive high-level equipment. Those whose level has reached the 6th rank of key comprehension can participate in the exam. Participants must demonstrate their abilities in less time. In the first round, participants will need to get through an alley with wooden warriors. The first to take the entrance test will be a young man named Tan Min. The guy noted that this is the young man who, during the last exam, almost ended up in an internal sect. He is already at the 9th level of key comprehension. Although they say that level 6 is enough to pass this round, even level 7 will have to work hard. Our hero noted to himself that the points depend on the completion time, which means he needs to go ahead. The head said that he heard that she lost the bet. Some scum from the outer sect was able to deal with her with his bare hands. He was very interested in him. The girl replied that it was now clear why he decided to attend this exam. The master asked if she had reached the realm of condensed truth. Saya replied yes. The man replied that Bei Linxian from the Beis Yue sect, Qi Xuan from the Han Yu sect had reached this level faster. What are her chances of winning the Four Great Sects tournament anyway? When the girl replied that there was no need to worry as she would do her best, the teacher said that he had heard that she was practicing secret techniques. Does he really want to reach the late stage of ki accumulation? Bei Minxiu is the top disciple of his sect, but by the standards of the great Yuan country, he is at the very end. Let it be a simple tournament among clans, but no matter what you need to prove yourself. Even Gu Xiaoyan, being at the 6th level of ki comprehension, was able to defeat her. She may be the strongest in Xinyan, but faced with the demands of this world, her cultivation will not pass the test. It's better to watch the exam. Maybe the appearance of a guy will do her good. Meanwhile, Tin Min coped with the task. Even 2 sticks of incense did not have time to burn. His speed is incredible. He will take first place anyway. Our hero was next in line. He thought that if he wanted to get into the inner sect, then there was no need to hide his strength. The young man noted that these wooden devices are filled with vitality, which makes them stronger. They are simply created to increase his strength. As expected, after absorbing life force, their bodies become less strong. Now they are easy to defeat. Now it will be interesting to see how long it will take him to get through this round. Everyone present was shocked how he managed to cope so quickly. The wand wasn't even half burned, and he was already back. One of the guys shouted to his sister that all the wooden warriors had been destroyed. He smashed them all to pieces, making it impossible to continue the exam. The man was indignant that this was impossible. Each of the wooden warriors is at the 6th level of ki comprehension. If you add up their strength, it will be enormous. They can only be passed through strategy. But when he came to the place to see what had happened, he saw that the sword technique had definitely worked there. Apparently, the guy simply attacked everyone who was in front of him, without dodging in any way. After which, the elder asked who did it. The student replied that Gu Xiaoyan. Saya immediately asked him what kind of devilish technique he used that destroyed all the wooden guards. The young man replied that the problem seemed to be their quality. He only hit it lightly and they immediately broke. The girl replied that it was simply impossible. The elder himself increased their strength. How could a guy at the 6th level of ki comprehension be able to deal with them so easily? The master muttered that he was not at the 6th, but already at the 9th level of comprehension of ki. The sister was amazed by the information she heard, since she herself checked it only a month ago. Everyone present was also shocked. Saya, called a genius who appears once every 100 years, took 2 years to reach this level. The guy explained that he went to the Tibetan Scriptures Pavilion and learned the lone assassin's sword technique, then went to the Silian Mountains and by luck came across 2 level 9 spellcasters. The girl thought to herself that he had only been gone for 1 month, but the young man had changed so much. Master Lin stated that this was quite good. Even if it seemed like an accident to him, luck also depends on innate potential. It was as if their sect had received a blessing from heaven. Another genius had appeared. Let him continue like this in the next round. Our hero thanked him for his praise and said that he would definitely try. Tin thought to himself that this did not coincide with the information received. But with the secret pill that Mr. Hua gave him, he will definitely be able to defeat him. Once Xiaoyan dies, the guy will become an internal disciple of the sect and receive Sharon's support. It was announced that those who made it past the first round would compete in these 8 arenas over the course of several days to make it into the top 10. When the time came for the first fight, our hero's opponent asked him to be gentler. Saya thought to herself that it seems that after the results of the first round, everyone looked at him with new eyes. I wonder if he will be able to take first place in single battles. A moment later, the young man, with the speed of light, found himself near the enemy and put the sword to his throat. Then, over and over again, he defeated new opponents who could do nothing against him. The master noted that this was not bad. In the outer sect, he has no equal. When he gets to the inner one, it is necessary to assign a good teacher to him. Finally, the time has come for the last battle, which will determine the winner. Gu Xiaoyan versus Tan Min. The opponent said that he did not expect our hero to last until the final battle, but it would be an interesting fight with him. After which the young man didn't waste time and immediately rushed to attack the enemy. The young man put his sword in front of him and with a challenge in his voice told his brother to teach him a lesson. The teacher was shocked that our hero had already mastered sword intent. Its development is happening too quickly. The guy noted to himself that his speed had increased significantly. A little more and he will overtake him. Min didn't understand how there could be such a huge difference in strength between them. Hua said that he was at the 6th level of comprehension of Qi. While he was distracted by thoughts, our hero flew up to him and dealt another blow. Tan remembered a pill that at the decisive moment would increase his strength 100-fold. Then, he will be able to finish off that garbage. Sharon warned him that if he decides to be cunning, the young man will arrange a fun life for him in the inner sect. As soon as the young man took this pill, he immediately began to feel a huge surge of strength. The teacher noted that the guy took the very pill that the girl called dangerous. He spent half his life making immortality pills, so he knows what he's talking about. Each elixir has not only healing properties, but also side effects. They usually use a little to help with daily cultivation to quickly absorb Qi from the world. Secret pills also only increase the rate of energy absorption, but they do much more harm. There are also pills that release the body's potential. She can raise the cultivation stage in seconds, help break through to the next level, and release all the Qi of the body in the most painful way. His body turned black. This means that the power of the pill is too powerful. It has accumulated in his meridians. The damage has already been done. All his cultivation, consider it, went down the drain. If a girl in the future meets an enemy whom she cannot defeat and decides to use this method, then such an end will await her. Our hero said that with his power, he was guaranteed a place on the intranet. Was it really worth it to be the first? The young man hissed. How could Hua Sharon even dare to harm him like that? He thought that if he helped him, he would enter the inner sect. When the young man, full of rage, began to attack Xiaoyan again, he tried to calm him down and asked him to come to his senses. Then he noticed that bubbles appeared due to the fact that his Qi had rushed out. They were called damned energy, and the guy understood that he was encountering this for the first time. Is it worth consuming them at all? The master shouted that this pill had released cursed energy into his body, so he needed to stop it immediately. Gu muttered that he was lucky. He wasn't going to save him, he was just interested in the unusual bubbles. Then in a moment he was near his head and grabbed the ball that he needed. His sister ran towards him and shouted that this was all very dangerous. Let him be careful. But our hero had already become obsessed and did not allow her to get closer to him, stopping her with the help of magical power. The master asked what happened. Is she really not able to cope with him? The girl replied that everything was fine. She was just a little distracted. The man told her to be more careful. In fact, she could not get out of her head the expression on Xiaoyan's face, which looked insane. Meanwhile, the young man who took the dangerous pill fell unconscious. Gu ran up to them and reported that his opponent was not himself. We need to examine him, because he took something unknown. Saya found it all very strange, but she said that he won at this stage. The guy took an honorable first place, and now they will take care of Tan Min. The master is an experienced alchemist and healer. The girl noticed that the color of his palms had changed and became the same as before. After some time, the guy reflected that he did not think that his opponent's exam would end this way. Hua is involved in all this. This is very mean. Looks like we'll have to figure out how to get rid of it. When he absorbed the cursed energy, it left his body but affected him. Luckily, Gu was able to suppress it. Looks like he needs to learn more about the ability to absorb attributes. Sometime later, Lin said that within a month, he had managed to become the top disciple of the outer sect. He can choose any technique he likes in the Tibetan Scriptures Pavilion. Considering that he had already mastered sword intent, the man decided to recommend him to the elder as an apprentice. He is the most skilled swordsman in their clan, so it is better for him to learn from him. The young man objected that, in fact, he had always been interested in creating pills and elixirs, so he would like to study alchemy. He thought to himself that now he is able to learn by simply absorbing attributes. So there is no point in studying martial arts, but alchemy will help him better understand the nature of the elements. The higher a person's cultivation level, the fewer attributes with Qi energy they produce. This means pills and stones are his only source of elements in the future. The girl was indignant at why he was organizing this circus. The guy has already mastered the intention of the ball, but with such data, I want to go to alchemy, where the logic is. Gu replied that he always believed that this was his talent. He just had bad teachers before. This time, he doesn't want to miss this opportunity. Saya exclaimed that the outside disciples had never seen a single pill, and he said that he had talent. The guy then asked her to explain why she was a student of the elder, although she had also mastered the sword technique. The girl said that alchemy was probably just a cover, there was something else behind it. The young man replied that she was mistaken. It was not because of her that he decided to become an alchemist. The master intervened in their dispute and said that if Shaoyan was so eager to study alchemy, then he personally would become his teacher. Only the fact that both geniuses of the Tinyon sect are under his leadership may not please someone. Therefore, our hero can learn from Saya. She will help him with cultivation. Let him go to the internal office and check in. There are also people there who will give him new housing. When he is settled, let him come to him. He will teach him alchemy. Suddenly, the girl stopped him and asked if he really intended to study alchemy. The young man answered yes. He feels that he has no problem breaking through to the next level. It's just a matter of cultivation. Making elixirs and pills is more important to him now. The sister replied that last time they made a bet. She lost and is ready to fulfill any wish. Saya had been waiting for his return all this time, even sending a person to the external sect in order to find out about him. The girl wants to say that the choice of a teacher should be taken seriously. If a guy wants to learn alchemy because of what happened between them, then don't. Our hero asked what she was talking about. He really wants to study this science and thinks he is quite good at it. As for the bet, I would like to ask her to recommend a suitable sword technique. At that time, Gu didn't really understand what the sword's intent was. It dawned on the girl that the first place goes to high-level equipment. She is very familiar with the Tibetan scriptures pavilion, so she will help him choose something. Shaoyan said that he was very grateful to her. He will first drop by the office and then go with her to choose equipment. After some time, the office employee noted that it was now clear who took first place in the exam. The young man answered yes. He has just become an internal student and wants to go through the necessary procedure. The man handed him the pass and told him to take care of it so as not to lose it. Then he added that he would now show where he would live now. Looking at the broken hut, the guy asked in surprise how the home of the inner student could be worse than that of the outer one. The office employee explained that he was new and probably didn't know. This is a way to encourage the student to cultivate. Cultivators do not pursue worldly goods. Gu replied that he pours well. But this is an ordinary warehouse where feed for livestock is stored, and not the dwelling of the inner disciple, for which he is trying to pass this place off. After which the young man pointed to the beautiful houses and asked who lived in them then. The man explained that in the internal sect there is a rule. The strongest get the right to choose their home. Therefore, let him be a good boy and stay in this place. There was no need to cross the wrong people's road. Our hero exclaimed that he understood everything. After which he clarified whether this was the work of Hua Sharon by accident. The man replied that since he figured it out without him, there was no point in explaining. Brother is one of the top 30 in the inner sect, so he is no match for him. Shaoyan exclaimed that he couldn't understand one thing. How dare any man act like he owns this place? Then he added that the young man had made a decision. He will now live in his chambers. Meanwhile, Hua was wondering how his dear friend was doing there. What was the expression on his face when he saw where he would live? The subordinate exclaimed that the master is so smart. His methods are very resourceful. The guy hissed that last time this scum was just lucky. But now that he had entered the inner sect, the young man would show him his true strength. Suddenly, there was a loud cry for Sharon to go out to meet his death. An office employee tried to stop him and shouted that Gu had really gone crazy. There is no need to make a fuss in this person's yard. The young man replied that he had really forgotten that the guy said that his house would become the Shaoyan house. The man exclaimed that he would destroy them all in this way. It's better for them to go back and he will find him a clean home. Our hero replied that it was too late. He already really liked this place and has no intention of leaving here. His rival jumped out into the street and hissed that how dare he come to his house and throw a tantrum. Shaoyan replied what kind of hysteria he was talking about. The young man challenges him to a duel for this house. Hua laughed loudly and said that he thought too highly of himself. Does he really think that if he took first place in the exam, then all the internal students are now no match for him? Does he really think that everyone in this place is cultivating for no reason? The guy replied that it was enough to engage in empty chatter. He heard that the Sharon courtyard was filled with beauty and energy, so he decided to take a look. The young man hissed that he had really decided to fight him. The key realization stage dared to challenge the key gathering middle stage. Our hero replied that in the verbal altercation he did not get far away from him, so whether they will fight or not. The young man replied that it was good. Let him prepare to meet his death now. Gu countered that last time he used one sword move to defeat him. I really hope that this time everything will be different. Hua shouted that he had become completely insolent and would now be destroyed. Sharon has been training the supreme technique of intoxicating spring breeze for several years. The guy will show him what real sword technique is. The subordinate was shocked that he created so many swords and each one contained an intention. The guy developed his technique to an incredible level. Our hero exclaimed that this was just window dressing. Now he will show him the real intention of the sword. The attack was so powerful that it was very difficult for the enemy to cope with and contain it. In the end, the young man still failed to overcome this. His sword cracked and he fell to the ground. Xiaoyan immediately declared that he had lost. In order to kill him, the guy even gave Tan Min a cursed pill. Because of him, he can no longer cultivate. The office employee was shocked by what he saw. Now Gu is the new genius of the inner sect. The guy hissed that he was a pathetic external disciple who dared to attract Saya Sinsu's attention. For this, he will pay with his life. No one will notice the death of some incomprehensible student. Our hero objected that he underestimated him too much. Although the girl is the first beauty in the sect, he is not going to stay in this clan, and in general, in principle, on the continent of Tianyuan. Then he added that he should get lost as soon as possible. This house now belongs to him. He will not kill him in the sect. But if a young man catches his eye outside of it, then let him blame himself. The man immediately exclaimed that if Brother Gu needed anything, he was at his service. The office workers are responsible not only for the affairs of the internal sect, but also for the well-being of each disciple. Our hero replied that in that case, let him help him refurbish the house and throw away all the things of the previous owner. That's why he's counting on him a lot. Now he needs to go to Elder Lin since he still has some business with him. The man stated that it seemed like the inner sect's ranking would soon change a lot. The guy immediately said that he had already resolved the issue with housing. I really wanted to start learning alchemy, so I immediately ran to him. Unexpectedly, the elder said that with his abilities, there was no point in studying alchemy. Then he explained that these were fragments of his master's stone slab. He felt the remnants of the sword's power in them, so he decided to keep them. The young man noted to himself that he had previously absorbed the intent of Sister Saya's sword, but this was completely different from that energy. The elder tried to shout to him, but the young man did not react at all. Therefore, I guessed that Gu was meditating. The young man, meanwhile, noted that incredible powerful energy was imprisoned in this stone. Now he had two sword intentions. The man thought to himself that he really was a genius. Lin studied this stone for 3 years, but was still unable to extract anything from it. And this kid entered into meditation at first sight and immediately mastered the sword intent within him. After which the elder suggested watching it again in case he felt something again. Xiaoyan replied that he no longer felt anything. The attribute in this stone has already been absorbed by him, and a lot of time must pass before the next time. The master replied that that is why he recommended taking up sword art. If such a talent learns alchemy from him, then he will become the main villain in this sect. The young man objected that learning alchemy was his life's dream. He's been wanting this for years now. The teacher said that he would no longer dissuade him. It's just that studying this subject makes it difficult to ascend to heaven. Alchemy is 90% talent and 10% technique. You can get a pill, but creating one is a different matter. The only one who managed to reach the 5th level in this matter is Master Wei. This is his cauldron of the origins of creation. It belongs to the 4th level, one level below the vessel with 4 elephants from the Imperial Palace. It is able to increase the performance of pills by 10%. The same book contains the works of his master. There are recipes from lower alchemy. Let him try to create a pill using this. This way they will test his abilities. He had already talked to Elder Lei. If he didn't have the talent to create pills, then he could just learn sword art from him. The guy replied that it was good. If he passes this test, then the man will no longer try to push his student to someone else. Lin said sure. Then he pointed to the ingredients for making the main tablet. Let him start creating it according to the recipe. If you have any questions, you can contact him. Alchemy values tranquility and silence. There is no need to rush into this. If you understand how much fire is needed for a particular pill, you will be significantly successful. And the best way to understand this is to practice. He has a good predisposition for cultivation, but the self-confidence that comes from breaking through too quickly is not at all suitable for this matter. Because alchemy consists of a huge number of failures, attempts, and more failures. At the same time, it will make even a genius understand what defeat is. Our hero asked if he could see what the main pill looked like. Before this, he had studied little about alchemy. Then, taking it in his hands, he had an idea of what it should look like. Now it was clear what to do next. To create a pill, you need to control the changes in the ingredients in the cauldron. In other words, it is necessary to control the fusion of force inside the tablet and finally clear it of impurities. Dosage of ingredients, their quantity, and, most importantly, the level of fire. All this is realized after numerous attempts. After that, you can find the best way to create. But if you smell the ingredients in the cauldron, then everything becomes different. No bubbles or paraphernalia are visible behind the lid, but there is a smell coming from the cauldron. You need a little luck to feel how the key energy changes. The elder noted that he was doing well. It was very interesting what the result would be. The young man thought to himself that since he sees the attributes of the ingredients, he is familiar with their smells. He can figure out what kind of attribute it is by the smell and by its strength and understand how much to add. Like shopkeepers in the market, weighing goods every day, they can determine the weight by holding something in their hand. He just needs to understand the smell of the ingredients and adjust the fire level. Since the guy just checked the attribute of the main pill, everything becomes even easier. After some time, the young man stated that everything was ready. You can check. The man exclaimed in surprise that these were 10 pills of 80% quality. Our hero muttered that there couldn't be only 80. The color completely matches the samples. Then he clarified whether the ones he showed him were also 80. The man muttered yes. He very rarely makes such pills. Students usually practice on them. Does he mean that the quality of his pills is low because the samples were not very good? Gu replied that he had hardly encountered pills before, so he did what he showed him. If the young man had practiced a little, the result would have been better. Lin noted that during his first lesson, he only managed to create 30% quality pills on his 8th attempt. But even then, the master said that he had extraordinary talent. Is this guy a monster? How can a person who has never practiced alchemy create high-quality pills the first time? The young man thought to himself that it seemed that some of the poisons had not been fully processed and had reduced quality. If he could lift the lid and see the attributes, he would surely create the perfect pills. Next time, you need to be more attentive to the smells of the ingredients. If he wants to become a first-class alchemist, then he needs this. Otherwise, his pills won't be as effective. The elder did not understand why he was sighing so heavily, as if he had failed. He needs to give it another try. Then he said that Xiaoyan could try again. The guy replied that he was sure that this time everything would work out. Suddenly, a shout was heard from the street, and the man noted that once again this elder lay had come for Gu. The young man noted to himself that now he needs many attributes to break through to the next level. Alchemy takes a lot of energy. If he continues to study the sword, he will have no time left. Going out into the street, the elder shouted why he was making noise again in broad daylight. Lei was indignant that first he begs to take Gu under his wing and teach him the art of the sword and then takes him to himself. Lin replied to slow down. At first, she really wanted Xiaoyan to learn the art of the sword, but firstly, he himself chose alchemy, and secondly, his abilities in it are no worse than in the art of the sword. The elder shouted that everyone understood that after the exam among external students, he simply did not want to give it to anyone. The man replied that this young man created the master pill on his first try. In the future, he has a chance to become a level 9 alchemist. The swordmaster exclaimed that it was simply impossible, but then added that it didn't matter. The guy will still learn from him. The teacher objected that he should go and ask him what the young man really wanted to do. But when they entered the room, they did not find the young man there. He just disappeared somewhere. On the table, they found a letter that said that he had created the Master Pill. Let him tell Lei that he chose a different path to become immortal. He doesn't have time to learn the art of the sword. The men noted that he really created 100% quality pills. He's so talented, but why doesn't he want to study martial arts? Meanwhile, the guy noted that he still didn't have time to choose the technique he won in the exam. Saya herself chose it for him. Having mastered it, he will be able to isolate attributes and convert them into energy. But where the girl herself went is unknown. She left only the book. There are so many worries in the intersect. You need to go to the mountains again and absorb more attributes in order to break through to the next level. After some time, he thought that the intention of the sword made of stone and what the guy received from his sister were completely different. It was incredible how this sword intent could reach such a level. It helped him break through to a new level, reach the key gathering stage, and enter the path of immortals. When he came to the Cillian Mountains, he was at the 6th level of key comprehension. If one is going to achieve key collection, then one needs to go deeper. Meanwhile, one of the girls exclaimed if Chao was sure that she was not mistaken. There is no road ahead. The sister replied that this was very strange. Last time she found remains in a cave nearby. But then, the monster was chasing her, so she didn't remember the exact place. That's why they came here to find the right road. There was definitely something valuable there. Chai said that we could still look around. After all, this time they are representing the Moon Cold Valley in this 4 Great Sex tournament. It will be bad if something happens to them. Suddenly, they came across a cave, and the girl exclaimed that last time she found something there. But she was afraid that there were monsters inside and did not dare to go in. One of the students replied that no sounds could be heard from there, and it was unlikely that there were any monsters there. Che went there ahead of everyone and said that it wouldn't hurt to still be on guard, just in case. But there, they saw a young man sitting near someone's remains and looking at them. Chiao exclaimed to him to take his hands off this thing because it belonged to their predecessors from the Valley of the Cold Moon. They came to take it away. The young man noted to himself that they were either in the middle stage of gathering ki or in the late stage, so it wasn't scary. But what other ancestors are they talking about? Most likely, someone was unable to defeat the monster, and now he has returned with reinforcements. Therefore, he replied that he had discovered this mountain monastery. On what basis does it belong to their predecessors? The girl pointed her finger at the sword and answered that based on it. What other questions could there be? Our hero pretended that he didn't understand what she was talking about. Then he added that he did not see any sword. One of the students told his sister that he was just in the beginning stages of gathering ki. It's better to just deal with it and not waste your nerves. Gu noted to himself that these girls looked like it was their first time outside the clan. Therefore, with sarcasm in his voice, he asked which of them was going to deal with him. The girls immediately rushed to attack him, shouting how he dared to talk to them so arrogantly. Chi exclaimed, "Why do better than assault? It's better to just talk." The sister asked her not to worry, since they would only teach him sense. While one of the students ran towards him, the young man simply snatched the sword from her hands. While the young man was dealing with Chao, the girl was indignant that this was actually her weapon. Suddenly, some young men appeared and said that little sister Chai forced him to come such a long way. The girl angrily asked that Cho Chan Fen had been watching her all this time. The guy replied that she charmed him when he was in the Valley of the Cold Moon. Since then, he only thinks about her. Therefore, he followed Sai, afraid that nothing would happen to her because they were future husband and wife. Our hero noted that it seemed that the Cold Moon Valley disciples had some kind of conflict with them. The girl was indignant at who he even called the future husband and wife. Let her dream further, because she will never accept the offer from the Valley of the Heavenly Wind. The guy replied that if so, then becoming lovers is enough for him for today. After which he ordered to seize them all. Xiaoyan exclaimed what they were even planning. "Don't you know that first you need to get in line?" The young man asked if he meant whoever stood up first gets the slippers. What does he even need? Our hero replied that he did the same as them. He advises them to leave, he has no time to deal with them. The guys laughed loudly, and Cho Chan Fen replied that it wasn't too much pathos for low-ranking trash. How dare he say such a thing to him, the master? Chiao muttered that he had really gone crazy. Even if the guy is faster than them, the difference in strength is obvious. He will not be able to withstand the fight. But of course, he doesn't lack self-confidence. The young man added that he also had no time, so let him get out of here while he still has the chance. The girl raised her hand up and began to support our hero, shouting that he would succeed. Chai asked in surprise if she knew him. The friend replied that she had no idea who this guy was. But the enemy of her enemy is her friend. The young man added that if he is in love with this girl, he can stay. After which he gave the order to attack, grab that boy, and humiliate the girl standing in front of him. The girls were also given the command to get ready, as Chiao Chan Fen decided to deal with them. In the blink of an eye, the opponent was near them and told Sai to take her time. It's better to enjoy the game. The girl said that she thought that the marriage proposal came from a noble family. But there was no thought that the Heavenly Wind Valley disciples were responsible for this. It's good that she didn't rush to agree. The young man said that her tricks would not help her. He has already taken a step, and her words will not make him retreat. Chai exclaimed that then they would do without pleasantries. Cold Moon Valley is among the top 4 factions not because of its numbers, after which an icy glow appeared around her, but it didn't hurt the enemy in any way. The guy asked what happened. Does it even make sense to use an ice river in 10 directions? Chai didn't understand what was happening. She was in unbearable pain in the Dantian area, although she barely used any energy. When Chiao took her chin, she hissed that he should continue to dream. The girl would rather die than submit to him. The young man replied that it was not for her to decide. Let her watch how her sisters are disgraced. But when he turned around, he saw our hero sitting on his chargers. Gu said that he was so carried away that he did not want to interrupt him. The sisters reported that everything was fine with them. Thanks to this hero, he defeated everyone in one fell swoop. Chiao Chan Fen asked Xiaoyan who he was and where he came from in these parts. The guy decided to clarify the situation and said that since they all belong to the 4 main clans, his name is Gu Xiaoyan, and he is a disciple of the Green Cloud faction. And he, it turns out, is from the Valley of the Heavenly Wind. The guy will testify. Everyone will know what they really are like when he takes off their disguise. Then the young man noticed that there were some strange bubbles around him that looked ominous. The opponent hissed that he would immediately dance for daring to interfere with him. The young man wondered where he had disappeared to. Looks like the guy used a barrier. From different sides, only the voice of the enemy could be heard, asking what had happened. Had he really lost it? Gu replied that there would be no need to look for him. Judging by the energy consumption, he seemed to have to exert a lot of effort. The opponent replied that he was very unlucky. No one has yet managed to escape the blow of his ghostly knife. Our hero snorted that then he would be the first and sharply jabbed his knife at the enemy who was standing right behind him. But in fact, it turned out that it was an illusion. Chan Fen was on the other side and stated that this mistake would cost him his life. Chi noted that he is a strong opponent. In Heavenly Wind Valley, they don't teach such techniques. It seems like he has a couple of secret techniques in his arsenal. The girl should have stumbled upon them long ago, but the fog is so thick that she doesn't even hear their feet. Apparently the fog is a barrier. Suddenly, a young man began to fly towards her, trying to hold back a powerful attack. She immediately asked if everything was okay with him and if he was safe. Our hero replied that everything was fine. The opponent exclaimed that this was very interesting. The guy is the first who managed to return from his sword. Our hero replied that he couldn't kill him. He doesn't consider his weapon to be a hindrance. The girl exclaimed that Cho needed her. Let him attack and they will check what he has learned. The enemy began to disappear with the words that if she is ready, then so be it. They will both die today. The guys stood back to back for a better view. The most important task was to prevent the threat. Chi didn't understand what was happening. The opponent seems to be everywhere. Our hero replied that there is only one Chan Fen. The rest are just copies. It is necessary to find him and kill him. While they were wondering how this could be done, the enemy suddenly appeared from the girl's side. When the young man hit him with his sword, the silhouette immediately dissipated. The girl said he was trying to catch them off guard. They can thwart him by remaining alert. In fact, she is already slightly exhausted and can only use 2 powers at a time. Our hero said that in this case, she should defend herself and he would put an end to these games. With the sword technique he recently learned, the guy will be able to fight back against his shadow clones. After which, the young man used the lightsaber technique and the entire room was illuminated by a blinding light. Now the clones could not hide in the darkness and were clearly visible from all sides. All copies were attracted to the fireball like butterflies to a fire, and they were immobilized. When the sword intent activated and began to hit everything around, there was only one true opponent left. After the enemy fell to the ground, our hero saw the sphere above him and decided to take it. Then he stated that he was finished. He failed to show favor as he did with Hua Sharon. Chow thanked him and added that, thanks to him, the Valley of the Cold Moon escaped a terrible disaster. When the young man asked why they thought he did this for them, one of the girls grabbed her sword and asked what the guy was up to. Shaoyan replied that they had forgotten that they were going to kill him and take the treasure for themselves. The girl immediately replied that they just wanted to scare him. You don't have to take it personally. And in general, they just wanted to ask the young man what he was going to do next. Our hero asked in surprise why he should report to them with any joy. Chi chimed in and said she wanted to clear things up. They head to the Imperial City to take part in the Chun Ghost Tournament. Once every 10 years, the royal family of the Great Yuan dynasty invites students from all sects to compete in martial arts. All participants take the competition very seriously. This is a great historical event and an occasion for the royal family to demonstrate the power of our country to the whole world. And at the end, great rewards await students of schools and sects. After which the girl asked if the young man would also participate in these competitions. Shaoyan replied that this was not actually his plan. He was busy training and accidentally ended up in this place. Chow said that there was absolutely nothing wrong if the young hero didn't know about it. The guy asked if they would mind if he joined them. Then he added that the truth doesn't know them at all. The girl objected that in battle, of course, they would get to know each other better, but even so, more than strangers, because he saved them. Chi added that if Gu had other things to do, they would not insist. But it is better to continue this conversation elsewhere, since the disciples of the Heavenly Wind Valley may come at any moment. After some time, the guys found themselves in the Imperial City. There were many more people there than in the Xinyan sect. The girl said that there was very little time left before the competition. She would like to see the best players of his sect. Will my brother meet them? Our hero replied that he didn't know yet. Saya's older sister won't miss this event, but he doesn't see her yet. Suddenly, a group of guys appeared, and those present noted that this was Qian Lan, who was the leader of the Heavenly Wind Valley. What's going on, and why is everyone so excited? When the man noted that the Cold Moon Valley disciples were already here, Tsui said that they had just arrived. We just hit the road a few days earlier than usual. It's not a long way from the valley to the capital. The master replied that he understood everything, after which he said that he still had things to do, so they would see each other at the competition. The guys heard people whispering that competitions of the best sects, which take place once every 10 years, would soon begin. But the disciples of Heavenly Wind Valley will not be able to participate. It seems they all died tragically, so Heavenly Wind Valley is now looking for a new team. The guy asked why the girls looked at him like that. He's with them, and besides, all those guys are dead, so there's nothing to be afraid of. Chaho replied that this was true, but that sect was one of the 4 major clans that undoubtedly guarded their secret treasures. If they find out the circumstances of the tragedy, they will have problems. The young man immediately said that it was time for him to go, because if they started digging, they would come to him. She tried to stop him and shouted that her sister didn't put it that way. She's just worried about them, that's all. The guy thought that he could not even think that in the Imperial City they would learn about Cho's death so quickly. Actually, his body remained in a cave on the mountainside. It's strange that it was discovered at all. He found so many untouched artifacts there. Chow seems to be right. Heavenly Wind Valley is clearly using secret techniques since they remain aware of all events. The young man killed him with the intention of the sword, which he pulled out of the stone. They have no evidence that points to him, but if they know that that guy was chasing Chi, then Gu followed her and her team too. The guy will become a suspect because the Cold Moon Valley's fighting technique is different from his. Fortunately, he made the decision to move on his own in time and said goodbye to the girls. The guy hopes that they understood everything correctly. The path has been fruitful. This savings ring is a rare gem, and the one whose remains he came across in the cave was clearly someone famous during his lifetime. Because of all the commotion, the young man never looked at what was inside, and now, finally, he finds out what is there. When stones and a couple of books fell out of it, Gu noted that it was the first time he had seen so many. If he extracted the attributes of each of them and combined them with those he took from the monsters, he would become much stronger. It was a triple in-shen technique, but unfortunately it was incompatible with his swan technique. This suits him better than the assassin's lone sword technique. She will help him gain sword energy attributes. Now the young man also has a savings ring, which is just great. Suddenly, a sphere appeared from the ring. Apparently, it is also capable of extracting attributes. Yuan energy is not so much, only 12 points, and space energy is as much as 23. While our hero was trying to understand how it all works, he abruptly moved to the other end of the room. Then he decided to try again and was convinced that it was teleportation. But you can't get through walls with it. Gu noted that this is the strongest attribute he has. With it, he can kill the enemy with one blow. It's just a pity that even with all the attributes of the ring, he can only move no more than a meter. Looks like we'll have to find a way to get more rings of other attributes. But the best way is to understand how to create such an amazing artifact yourself. Suddenly, the young man heard voices outside asking where the owner had gone. It was the head of the clan who said that he would like to move in. The man replied that it was good and he would prepare the rooms. Our hero was very surprised what the captain of the Heavenly Wind Valley was doing here at all. Qian Lan asked where the Cold Moon Valley disciples were staying. The subordinate replied that it was not far from here at the Tianbao Hotel. Their people watched them all day long. Master Cho persecuted Chai and other members of her sect. That guy was with them. It is also necessary to assign an observer to him and find out who he is as soon as possible. It is necessary to find the criminal as soon as possible, before the senior gentleman arrives. The young man realized that they seemed to recognize him and were already suspecting him. I wonder if his sect has already arrived in the mountains. Will Sister Saya be at the competition? Then he decided that he couldn't count on them. Continuing to extract attributes over time, he will have to leave the sect. If the situation with Heavenly Wind Valley worsened, it might have a bad effect on them. He killed their student with one left hand. With this ring, he certainly has nothing to fear anymore. The guy extracted the attribute of space. He doesn't care about the Valley of the Heavenly Wind. Meanwhile, Qiao asked for forgiveness and said that she always speaks without thinking. How does she think that people in the Imperial City already know about Qiao's death? She simply shared her suspicions. Xiaoyan saved them just as it occurred to her that he might fail them. Qi replied that it didn't matter anymore. The young man has left, and she is worried about something else. Chun Fen was going to propose to her, which means he is from high society, but then she had a bad feeling and she refused him without finding out anything about him. But it was this young man who threatened them, and he deserved to die. Gu ended up there by accident. He did this to save them. Therefore, it is their duty to protect him from consequences. She and Xiao Yui will tell the captain that she was the one who killed Zhou after he attacked them first. Then the girl added that our hero should not be allowed to confess to the murder, so she will find him first. Standing near the corpse of a comrade, the man asked where the senior master Cho was now. The subordinate replied that he would arrive in the Imperial City tomorrow. Qian Lan then asked where the guy he ordered to be followed was. Let them bring him in immediately. After some time, a fight broke out between the guys and the young man. Our hero asked if they were tired of watching him all day long as possible. The captain of Heavenly Wind Valley asked if he had accidentally killed Qiu Chun Fen. But suddenly, Chai intervened in the conversation, saying that it was she who killed that man. The man asked in what sense. Did she have a reason to kill the Heavenly Wind Valley disciple? The girl replied that their clan is one of the 4 strongest. It's a pity, really, that there are such vile and unscrupulous students there. She refused to marry him, and the guy pursued her all the way to the Cillian Mountains. He also wanted to discredit her honor. That's why her hand didn't even tremble when killing him. The man asked why she was saying all this. Qiu is dead. All her speech is just empty words. He is the only dear son of Master Qiu. This is a tragedy for the entire valley. The guy did not just miss his bride, he said goodbye to life. The elder will not leave it like that. There must be a more reasonable explanation for what happened, but if she wants blood feud, then the captain will punish them. The girl asked what all this empty talk was for. She heard her brother's sword skills and would like to see it with her own eyes. The young man stated that this was somehow ridiculous and immediately rushed to attack his rival. Qi immediately activated the technique of 100,000 glaciers, which filled everything around. The guy noted that the valley had incredibly strong technology. It instantly took over the territory. Qianlan and Qian are similar. Only they used camouflage techniques, and her position was completely open. The enemy, meanwhile, used invisible technology and moved very quickly from place to place. The girl decided not to wait for him to get closer to her and began to attack him with the help of a flying flower and a heavenly dance. At first, Chor thought that his energy had disappeared, but then she realized that he was simply out of her line of sight. When the girl felt that the man was approaching her from above, she immediately put up an icy defense over herself. But the enemy avoided a collision and flew towards our hero with a sword in his hands. It dawned on the girl that he didn't need her, but he. When the sword was almost near the young man's head, he immediately teleported. The captain was shocked and did not even understand at first what had happened. He thought that it seemed to him that Gu had simply disappeared. Finding himself behind him, our hero asked what was actually happening. It turns out that all this time, his goal was only him. Qianlan couldn't figure out how he did it. The girl is able to track his movements using the glacier field and thereby limit his abilities. Well, how did this guy, even after all his attempts to confuse Choi, understand that he was the target? However, the trick he pulled now is much more frightening. It wasn't like a quick dodge, more like a teleportation. After which, he stated that the young man was able to avoid the blow, which he had carefully thought out. It seems he underestimated him. Gu replied that it would be better to let him think about something else. Since he is familiar with Qi, he should know its techniques. Even he can see that her technique matches his. If he wanted to deal with her, he would act openly. But the man avoided the fight, so our hero realized that he didn't really want to attack him. The girl said that in front of him was a disciple of the Sinyan sect. Let him think about the consequences before he strikes. The captain immediately replied that he did not know that he was from that particular clan, so he was wrong. But he knows the temperament of Senior Cho, so as the chief disciple of Heavenly Wind Valley, he must settle this matter. None of them wants the conflict to grow to the scale of a sect. The girl was indignant that this was unfair. Chan Fen is primarily to blame. The man replied that it didn't matter to him whether he was dead or alive. The main thing now was to pacify the anger of the senior master. So there is no other choice. Shaoyan laughed and exclaimed, "This is how Heavenly Wind Valley, one of the top 4 sects, resolves conflicts. It's clear as daylight that it's their fault, but they want to shift it onto someone else's shoulders." Qian replied that there is no need to be a weakling. He will take the life of a newcomer who has recently learned the realm of Qi, and they will end there. Isn't this the right outcome? Plus, he killed their student. The young man replied that he had a better offer. He will simply finish off his eldest, and that will be the end of the matter. The man exclaimed that everyone can talk. Let him better talk to the master one-on-one as soon as he catches him. As the captain rushed past him, the young man noted that he was surprisingly faster than Gu with the speed attribute. Literally, a moment later, he found himself with a sword near his back and exclaimed that he should try to dodge this time. But the young man managed to teleport again to avoid being caught. While repelling the attack, the guy thought that it was strange. It seemed that the distance to which he could teleport was decreasing. "We need to end this immediately." Then our hero wanted to deal him a decisive blow, but the man managed to dodge. At first, the young man did not understand how he managed to avoid the blow. But then it dawned on him that with each teleportation, the space attribute becomes weaker. He only has 23 points left. He must take care of them. While the opponent rushed at him with a sword, the guy thought that it would not be so easy, but he should teleport only at the most critical moments. Suddenly, an ice wall grew near him, which made it possible to weaken and repel the attack. Qi exclaimed that this was her and Qianlan's business, so there was no need to involve Shaoyan. The captain of Heavenly Wind Valley exclaimed that if she so wanted to die, then he would fulfill her whim. Our hero wasted no time and began to summon the Golden Torch Beam technique, the first Sun Sword intent. After which he stated that the last blow would decide the outcome of this fight once and for all. Then a powerful stream of energy fell on the enemy, who was so confused that he did not even try to escape. But when the smoke cleared a little, the senior master appeared, who menacingly stated that it was he who killed his son. Gu noted that his and his spheres are at different levels. He only had 15 space attribute points left. He already understood how the teleportation technique worked. The attribute consumption depends on the range of movement, and now the guy can teleport 5 steps further. When the young man muttered that it seemed he could not win, the elder master replied that he was right. Now the guys will die on the spot. After a collision with a man, our hero received a blow of such force that he flew back a great distance and lost his sword along the way. As he fell to the ground, Xiaoyan noted that he tried to block his blow, but it seemed to be completely useless. When the master announced that now it was her turn, the girl immediately erected an ice wall in front of her. But it was not difficult for the man to instantly cut it with his magical abilities. Qi wanted to repel this attack, but she failed, so she also flew back, like our hero. The master stated that it was difficult to even call this a battle. Death was too easy for them. Gu couldn't believe that after healing so many attributes, he couldn't parry a single blow. It seems his abilities are on the same level as Xin Luan and Yan Qin near Silian Mountain. He doesn't stand a chance. Qiu then approached the girl and grabbed her by the hair, saying that apparently she was very brave, so she would die first to pay tribute to his son. Our hero shouted, "Wait!" I thought to myself that from the moment I learned to extract attributes, I thought that I would become invincible. The young man believed that he could defeat an opponent of a level higher than him in one move. But why is he still so weak? The guy can't believe that it takes so long to reach the key gathering level. Gu then thought that he had no choice but to combine the Royal Dragon Key and the Devil Key. The man noticed this and thought that he had really lost his mind. It is necessary to kill him before Xiaoyan does anything. But it was too late to do anything, since the appearance of our hero changed dramatically, and it seemed that his strength seemed to have increased significantly. The man noted that he was in a very precarious position. It seems that he is about to completely lose control of himself. In this case, the senior master will help the young man cope with this problem. But our hero began to swing his sword in front of him, thus preventing the enemy from approaching him. Chayo noted that if his power continues to grow, then it seems that he cannot be defeated. Apparently, the guy is waging a war of attrition. After turning into a demon, he began to put all his strength into each blow, but this would not last long. Soon Gu would simply die from exhaustion. Meanwhile, the disciples of the Qingyun sect arrived. Master Lei Li saw that the northern snow village had arrived. Next to Master Lin is a student named Bei Linyan, famous for his abilities. During this time, he has undoubtedly expanded Yuan's scope, making him the strongest opponent in these competitions. Then he turned his attention to the master of the Cold Moon Valley, Hanuya, and wondered where Qi, who was their favorite student, was. And at the head of the team from the Heavenly Wind Valley is Master Chan Fen. Sect leader Qian Lan is apparently unable to join. Sire suggested that the man was investigating an accident that recently happened to a disciple of the Heavenly Wind Valley. The master noted that heaven is favorable only to good people, and the path of this sect has never been paved with good intentions. After some time, Her Highness the Princess came out to them and thanked everyone for coming through such a difficult path to get to this place. After which, she announced that the opening of the ceremony would take place in 2 weeks. Everyone has been working hard for a couple of years to raise their cultivation level, so he hopes that everyone present will enjoy the competition. The girl prepared a new space for them, adapted for cultivation. A little later, they're taken there. When Sect Master Qingyun thanked her, Yan Qin asked if all of his clan's disciples were participating in the competition this year. The man replied that, of course. Then he clarified why she was even asking this. Suddenly, Chao came running, fell at the feet of her master, and began to beg her to save Qi, since the people from the Heavenly Wind Valley were chasing her. Meanwhile, the man noted that such a long period had already passed, and he was still holding up well. It's as if he's being guided by a stream of endless energy. The young man noticed him and began to run towards him in order to attack. The master managed to dodge the blow, but his cover was destroyed. The enemy decided not to miss this chance and take advantage of the fact that our hero was so close to him, so he attacked with the help of his magical abilities. Unexpectedly, the young man was able to gather his strength and strike his opponent with his sword. Meanwhile, the sisters ran up to Qi and began to worriedly ask what was wrong with her and what had happened. When she came to her senses, her first question was where Gu Xiaoyan was. Qiao replied that they found her lying on the ground, but there was no one else around. The girl screamed to her master that the young man could die and they just had to save him. The woman asked her to first calm down and tell her what happened. The best student, with tears in his eyes, began to say that he wanted to kill them, and the guy entered into a fight with him. But after that, she lost consciousness, and does not know how it all ended. Saya exclaimed that she really wanted to say that our hero fought with Master Chao. The teacher said that Chao Min told her the story of what Gu Shaoyan did. The girl objected that he simply stood up for them and Chan Fen got what he deserved. Therefore, now she cannot leave him in trouble. Since Yu rushed to run away, shouting that she simply had to save him. They tried to stop her, but she didn't listen to anyone. Xin Yun stated that it was they who were to blame for the death of their students. However, they have no evidence, so the girls can easily get away with it. A moment later, they were immobilized by magical energy and there was nothing they could do about it. Hanuye stated that no matter what happens there, she will not allow her students to be insulted. Lei Li said that the first thing they should do is find Gu, but before they find out the truth, everyone better watch their mouths. Meanwhile, Master Cho Tianguan accidentally encountered a heavenly official in the forest. When the man asked in surprise what he was doing there, Sayuchian replied that he had arrived to remind him that now was not the time for revenge. They must carry out their plan. The teacher asked if he wanted to accuse him of being impulsive. Actually, his son is dead. How can he turn a blind eye to this? The young man replied that he was simply reminding him that if the general's plan failed because of him, the master would be jealous of his son's fate. The elder Cho began to get angry and warned him not to test his strength. The guy replied that he was simply advising him to think carefully before getting into trouble. Let him wait for his revenge. Now is not the time or place for it. Our hero, meanwhile, was in some cave and thought that the elder was too strong. He couldn't handle it and just went crazy. The young man was simply lucky that he did not die and was able to slowly suppress the ki energy. Shaoyan only absorbed the demonic ki from the Tanmin capsule, forgetting about the energy of the Yan Qin Yuan Emperor Dragon and the ghostly ki of Cho Chun Fen. But Gu never thought that he would lose control over them too. To avoid making mistakes again, the guy must find a way to improve them. You need to hurry. The elder may appear at any moment. Saya conducted her investigation and noted that there were signs of a fierce struggle everywhere. As a result, both opponents suffered. It seems that the young man had a great chance to escape, but Shaoyan decided to stay. I wonder why. Is it because of Qi? Where is the guy at the moment? Just let everything be okay with him. When the captain reported that the youth had escaped, the elder Cho slapped him and exclaimed that he was useless. The man beat him half to death and the young man can't even catch him. After the vengeful father shouted that he should find him, at least get him out of the ground, the guy replied that he didn't think now was the right time for this. The sects arrive one after another and they are all aware of his son. This is the imperial city and the place of the master. The best thing would be to solve the problem before it happened, which is what he did. But now that the great families have arrived, it is no longer their power. Now Cold Moon Valley and Green Cloud Sect are busy searching for Gu Shaoyan. Killing him will put themselves at a disadvantage. He understands that the man is saddened by the death of his son, but everything now looks like the machinations of the Valley of the Divine Wind. The master hissed that our hero must die, like all those involved in the death of his son. Suddenly, Saya's voice rang out and angrily asked where Gu was. She warns Qian Lian that if he touches him, she will kill him with her own hands. The captain replied that they were absolutely not interested in this guy. If the girl was looking for him, she had come to the wrong place. Sinsu was confused at first, but then clarified whether he was Cho Chun Fen's father. The man replied that if they killed his son, then he would finish off her master, not to mention the junior minions of the Green Cloud Sect. The girl grabbed her sword and exclaimed that if they killed Shaoyan, then they wouldn't get away with it so easily. The elder laughed and said that this was simply great. He has been in the mountains for several days, but he constantly fights only with some youngsters. Shouting that how dare he insult her, the sister rushed to attack him. Qian Lian stopped her sword with 2 fingers and said that there was no need to bother so much. She is, of course, talented and known as one of the outstanding geniuses of the great country of Yuan, but she is as close to him as to the moon. Then he added that the huge gap between the kingdoms cannot be filled with a simple word: genius. The captain thought that even Seer could not compete with the elder. Gu was obviously in the early stages of accumulating fathers, but how could he not only escape, but injure him? Is it really all explained by madness? The man said that next time, before asking a question, the girl should think about whether she even has the right to do so. The young man stopped him and asked why he didn't let her go for the first time. The elder pushed him aside and informed him that as soon as they returned back, he would deprive him of absolutely all powers. The young man replied that he simply wanted to remind him of his current situation. The man said that Gu must die, even if the Lord of Heaven himself stood up for him. If they dare to provoke him again, the elder will no longer hold back. The girl thanked the captain and said that he saved her. Then she asked if Xiaoyan was alive. Meanwhile, our hero stated that finally all the attributes had been improved. This time, it didn't break. Although it was a little more dangerous than before, he still received a good reward. Surprisingly, the guy was able to fully assimilate these attributes and reached the late stage of ki accumulation. Now that he faces Master Cho, he won't have such big problems. Suddenly, a heavenly official appeared near the entrance to the cave and asked, "What about him then?" The young man asked if he was one of the guards of the heavenly palace. The man replied that he didn't expect that a child who had only recently begun to accumulate ki energy would be able to fight on equal terms with the elder of the Dan rotating realm. This is really very strange. Just recently, the guy was shouting that he had reached the late stage of ki accumulation, but in fact, he had made it much further. Our hero asked what he wanted. He is also given in the rotating kingdom, if necessary, Gu will fight him to the death. Sayuchian laughed and said that Xiaoyan is still too young. Only people like him have so much impudence. Let him not worry, since the man did not come to fight. The heavenly official wants the young man to join the divine palace. If he does this, then the guy will be able to help him reach the level of God in the blink of an eye. The divine palace is full of masters. Each country has 11 gods and 4 representatives, and above them stand the Star Kings. They are in a place Gu can't even imagine. The divine forces are full of secrets, but if the young man joins them, he will have a chance to find out everything. Xiaoyan is extremely talented, so the Green Cloud sect is a small thing for him. The young man asked what? Then why do they need blood money, since they are so powerful? She replied that it was important for the palace. He can only grant him God-level techniques if Gu joins them. He will use all resources to deal with the rotating Dan kingdom. Our hero did not understand why he was so kind to him. The guy had never seen the Green Cloud sect practice divine-level techniques. Although the battle with the corrupting kingdom of Dan will not take more than a year, what he offers is truly exciting. It would be cool if the young man could extract attributes from the treasury of the divine palace. However, unfortunately, their target is Yan Qing. He cannot join them, but it is necessary to establish contact. Gu replied that he agreed, but he had one request. He doesn't have enough storage rings, and the Green Cloud sect doesn't issue them to the newcomers of the inner clan. Does he have any extra? The official replied that he was wondering what he would ask for. Usually, no one carries more than one, but these are the rings of his enemies killed a couple of days ago. Let him take them along with all their contents. But before giving him the rings, Yuchen said that since he intended to join the Divine Palace, it was necessary to conduct a small test. There will be a tournament organized by the Blood soon, and he needs help. Once completed, he will report to the palace and officially promote him to the 12 traveling gods, after which he will bestow a god-level technique. The guy replied that the Valley of the Divine Wind was already haunting him. Did he really think that he would be able to get there? I thought to myself that I needed to warn the princess and ask her to be careful. The man noted that he should not worry. He would help him settle things with this clan for a while. The guy can move forward with confidence and not worry about anything. After some time, our hero encountered Saya, who could not believe her eyes. The girl began to examine him from all sides and ask if everything was okay. She heard that Elder Cho was looking everywhere for him, so she was very worried. The young man replied that he only had a superficial wound. There was no need to worry so much. The sister muttered that this was good. She had been looking for him for a couple of days and came to the conclusion that the people who want to kill him are very dangerous. Since Yu just detected a strong aura, but it immediately disappeared. Our hero noted to himself that it was better not to involve his sister in this if he was seen with the Divine Guard. Questions could not be avoided. Therefore, he replied that regarding the bloodthirsty aura, there are a lot of demonic beasts around, so he feels it too. Saya invited him to return with her. This time, the team is led by Lei Li. The people of the Divine Wind will not dare to do anything with him. After some time, Gu greeted the elder. He replied that it's good that everything is fine with him. Let him stay next to him and no one will dare to do anything. Shaoyan replied that the last time he left the sect, he was lucky to reach the key accumulation realm. This time, the young man was on the verge of death a couple of times, so he reached the late stage of key accumulation. The elder began to examine him from all sides and say that he was definitely a genius. He just needs to learn the art of the sword. The man will pass on all his knowledge to him. Since Yu said that she did not expect him to overcome the barrier that geniuses take 6 months to overcome so quickly. She believes that he should be allowed to compete for the sake of their clan's glory. The master replied that it was a pity, but the list of candidates had already been submitted. He visited Elder Lin to recommend that Shaoyan be nominated as a candidate for the competition. Unfortunately, nothing came of it. Our hero replied that everything was fine. He will watch and learn. Although the guy has reached the late stage of Qi, his strength is still not great. He still has a lot to learn. The elder replied that in that case, in order to strengthen his kingdom, he would teach him his flaming sword technique. Gu said that Chai from Cold Moon Valley was seriously injured because of him, but unfortunately he fell into madness and doesn't know how she is feeling. Is everything okay with her? The girl replied that she had been saved, but due to her injury, she would be forced to miss the upcoming tournament. When the girl began to cough, one of the nurses said that she needed to take medicine. But after that, Gu suddenly appeared at the door, saying that the lady herself was in serious condition, but she still needed to worry about him. Chi replied that when he went mad like a demon and Elder Chiu hit him hard, she was very worried and afraid for his life, but at the same time, she could not do anything. The young man patted her on the head and said that everything was fine. He is safe and sound. At that moment, he really merged with the fire, but the elder's attack was imperfect. In the end, he managed to escape into a cave. Fortunately, he overcame the demon within himself and was able to recover. Going outside, the guy came across Saya, who was looking for him, and now Gu is here. Then he took out qi and blood restoration pills and said that he had made them specifically for her internal injuries as soon as he returned to the city. Let him accept them. His master Lin Hasun, from the Green Cloud sect, is a first-class alchemist in the Great Yuan country, so he knows how to prepare them. The girl was shocked that this was a level 10 pill and couldn't believe that he actually made them himself. Our hero replied that he couldn't buy them, so yes, he made them himself. Let him not worry and take the pills, he has enough of them. Then the young man gave her a pill, and then brought her a bowl of water for her to drink. Chiao entered the room, brought medicine and said that it was time to take them. Having seen this picture, she immediately said that she had not seen anything. Let them continue. The guy immediately asked for forgiveness and said that he just wanted to give her medicine, nothing more. After which he began to run away from the room, shouting that he should not forget to take these pills, and Gu would return to visit her a little later. The next day was competition day. Students from different sects slowly began to gather. The master of the Green Cloud clan asked how our hero's sword technique was going. The young man replied that he had trained a little and gained experience, but it was not enough for battles. The man replied that it was a pity that he would not be able to take part this time. This would be a great opportunity to exchange experiences with geniuses from other sects. Chung suddenly appeared and asked how the killer dared to appear in this place without fear. Senior Cho noted that these are people from the Green Cloud sect. They should look around. The master noted that they were present on behalf of the Divine Wind Valley. There is no need to allow yourself to say such nonsense. Everyone knows the story. They can let this matter slip through their fingers. But if they insist so, then the man will join other sects, and they will decide this issue in the royal court. After which the elder hissed that when the time comes, there is no need to blame him if they will be at a disadvantage. Chang asked the elder not to be angry since today was the start day of the competition. But in such tests, injuries are not a rare occurrence, so Lei must also control himself if something happens. One of the main Green Clouds asked that they were really counting on personal revenge. The man exclaimed that he must be joking. The competition will be between all talented novices, and they all have different kingdoms, so something can certainly happen at the first stage. Lei replied that although your chief acolyte Qianlan has some talent, it is a bit arrogant to claim that they will defeat them. Don't he think so? Smirking, the enemy asked who said that they only had him. Divine Wind Valley Disciple. Siyuchen immediately greeted the elder. Our hero was surprised because the guy is a heavenly official. Will he really represent the Valley of the Divine Wind? After some time, the start of the first round, the Phantom Divine Heart Formation was announced. This is an ancient formation left on the territory of their country. To this day, no one has unraveled its secrets. They sealed off the most dangerous areas. If they see the seals, then there is no need to try to break them. The danger in those places is extremely great, even for the level of a sea god. With the rest, they will cope quite well. There are 30 jade talismans in the formation. They are their target. Having obtained them, they need to head to the center of the formation in order to pass the test. Seats will be allocated based on the number of mascots. Completing the stage will take 3 days. If someone fails to reach the center by the end of the 3rd day, then this person will be disqualified. However, there are no restrictions within the formation. Those who committed murder and injury will not be punished. Gu now understands why Cho was sure that they would take revenge, but he is not participating in the competition. Then it dawned on him that their target was Saya's sister. They asked Seiuchen to deal with her specifically. Now they can't do anything with him, so they decided to take it out on the Green Cloud sect. The young man immediately began asking the girl to withdraw from this competition, as he was very worried. Saya exclaimed what he was even talking about. It's understandable why he's worried since she's fallen out of favor. But since you intends to take first place in this competition, the young man is a genius among geniuses. His cultivation is perfect, but he lacks experience. It's okay to retreat when you feel like you're outnumbered by half your enemy. But some things need to be done. She had broken through to the realm of true key condensation so she could take care of herself. Our hero objected that guy was hired by Tianfen Gu. He is not their novice and his strength surpasses the realm of true condensation. The girl replied that it was too late for them to retreat. She was obliged to participate not only for his sake, but also for the sake of the sect. The master said that Sinsiyu was right. They have no choice. If they retreat now, that clan will continue its aggression. It's good that the venue is a formation of illusions. It's almost impossible to track anyone there. Let Saya remember, everything is unclean with that guy. If he meets him, he does not enter into battle. If he feels danger, he immediately runs to the pharmacy center. No one would dare harm her there. The young man asked why it was suddenly safe in the center. What's so special about it? Lei responded because one of the organizers of the competition is a talented princess of a great dynasty. She will personally meet the participants in the center. No one will dare to do anything in front of her. After some time, a subordinate reported to Lord Tianguan that the competition had already begun. When the man asked what about the secret passages, the servant replied that they were open, so he could enter the formation at any time. The guy replied that it was great. This time, the 4 divine magistrates will join forces to seize the blood. Another noted that the Phantom Divine Heart Formation is a great place. The Great Yuan dynasty actually considers it theirs. One of them added that, much to their regret, the Divine Palace had already deciphered this formation a long time ago. Tianguan stated that they would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The Star King of the Divine Sea will personally greet the participants, so you need to grab your blood before he appears. The guy objected that since she dared to leave the palace without the guards of Emperor Yan, they would be able to capture her. Meanwhile, the host announced that he was declaring the Phantom Divine Heart Formation competition open. The elder asked the girl to be careful, since this was not an ordinary competition. Gu noted to himself that it looks like Yan Qin will be at the center of pharmacy. It is not surprising that Sei is speaking on behalf of the Divine Wind Valley in this competition. Now his logic is clear. He made a deal with the valley and can now get to the center of the formation. But he also wants to see him as part of the Divine Palace, so that the guy cannot kill Xiaoyan. Suddenly, it dawned on our hero that the Divine Wind Valley was using the Divine Palace to deal with the Green Cloud sect. Meanwhile, the young man quietly threw him a small note. It was a map that showed the secret entrance to the formation. It was also written that Gu would go there, and the young man would take care of everything. Xiaoyan noted to himself that it was good that he pretended that he intended to join the ranks of the Divine Palace. The problem with entering the formation has been resolved. After which he informed the elder that he would go for a walk and examine the surrounding area. Looking around, our hero noted that it was now clear what the ghostly zone of the Heavenly Heart looks like. But before he could take even a couple of steps, the place was completely transformed. This means that in order to move to the next location, he must break through these shifts in space. As soon as the young man thought that he needed to be careful and remain vigilant, a huge monster appeared behind him, after which the animal suddenly began to hide back under the water, and the guy didn't even have time to really understand anything. The young man decided not to wait for him to attack again and attack him underwater using the lone sword technique. When the creature appeared again, Gu thought to himself that the appearance of the sea dragon was unexpected. It's just not clear why he is so weak, perhaps a 5th or 6th level demonic beast. After a powerful stream of energy erupted from his mouth, Xiaoyan realized that he could attack from a long distance. While the monster's mouth was open, our hero managed to see that it contained a jade talisman. He never thought that he would be able to find it so quickly, but to get it, the young man must defeat this giant dragon. The problem is that he cannot even injure such a powerful demon. In addition, the guy does not see his attribute, which means he cannot extract it. The examiner said that the most dangerous areas will be marked with a seal. Only there was no seal at the entrance. But if the masters in charge of these competitions were able to install this jade talisman, then removing it should be easy. This creature is simply an obstacle created for competition and not a real dragon. When suddenly the monster began to dissipate, it dawned on Gu that it was just an ordinary illusion. No wonder he couldn't extract its attribute. Our hero never thought that the power of illusion could reach the 5th or 6th level of a demonic beast, but since it was an ordinary test, he passed it with ease. The attributes were still inside the talisman. Yuan's energy is quite small, but this is the first time he extracts something from a jade artifact, so he will still absorb it. Opening his eyes, the young man understood how it all worked. Now the location was completely revealed to his gaze. It turns out that by retrieving an attribute, it can monitor shifts in space. But the talisman contains only a small part of them, so when it gets to the next location, part of the territory will again be available to it. In this case, in order to reach the center of the ghost zone, he must collect jade talismans, otherwise there is no other way. Suddenly, the voice of a heavenly official was heard, who said that he had simply been waiting for him. Gu exclaimed that the secret passage he showed him actually worked, although at first the guy doubted it very much. In his opinion, this place is not suitable for holding competitions. She replied that the Sky Castle had been exploring the ghost zone of the Sky Heart for several years. The young man knows as many secrets as the royal family never dreamed of. Our hero said that it looks like the castle in the sky is full of tigers and dragons. He wonders why such an insignificant person like him suddenly needed the Lord of Heaven. This time, Yushin probably thought of a whole plan to capture the Bloodhawk. Did the man decide to use him as a pawn? The heavenly official replied that everything was captured with the Bloody Hawk. He was almost in their hands. He doesn't need a guy for this. Everyone became aware of the ghost zone of the Celestial Heart hundreds of years ago. Why does he think the royal family needed to monopolize this information? Our hero replied that the gentleman must understand that he is still too young and does not have access to as much knowledge as he does. She replied that since ancient times, the ghost zone has been responsible for protecting the city, houses, and keeping dangerous criminals. She was created for a specific purpose, and the royal family knows this very well. Gu asked if he understood correctly that the Celestial Heart Ghost Zone was guarding something, and knowing what power she has, we can call her a mountain guard. The heavenly official replied that no, she protects not the mountain, but the entire country. It took the Sky Castle 200 years to explore this area. They are confident that the place is the entrance to the underground castle of King Xuan. Ancient writings say that this ruler is the only one who managed to reach the realm of the Divine Sea in 1,000 years. Apart from him, no one has ever learned all the levels of changes in space. Of these, only 12 are used in the competition and help confuse the participants. The key to the gates of the King's Castle will be waiting at the very end, after passing through all the locations. Only after all the necessary manipulations will the castle be ready to capture the Ghost Zone. The young man replied that this was all great, but he still couldn't understand what use it would be to them. Yushin stated that the guy would help him break through the center of the Ghost Zone. Our hero asked why him. There are much more capable cultivators in the Sky Castle. The man replied that he was right, but they couldn't do it alone. They need someone who has not yet reached the Dantian rotation sphere. They had a man in mind, but when he met him, he realized that the young man would be a better fit than anyone. The young man asked why they thought he would have the strength to do this. She explained that when he first met him, Gu was at a low level, but was still able to kill the god of the Sky Castle. A couple of months later, he defeated a couple of key gathering level opponents at once. The young man stated that it turns out that he knows that Shaoyan killed the god of the Sky Castle. Yushin replied that he could pretend it didn't happen. And when the doors of King Suwon's underground castle open, he will share this great success with him. The guy exclaimed that it was a great honor for him. Then he thanked him for dispelling his doubts. Now it would be impolite to refuse such a generous offer. The guy exclaimed that he had been in this place for half a day, but only now he learned about 12 levels in the Ghost Zone. Perhaps he will show how to overcome them, then he will definitely be ready to serve the Lord of Heaven. The man replied that reaching the center is not that difficult. He can do it himself. This way, the guy will better understand how the Ghost Zone works. This experience will only play into his hands in the future. Our hero noted that he talks about this so naturally, as if it were as easy as shelling pears. Suddenly, a heavenly official reported that someone was approaching in their direction. Then, he added that everything else depended on him and disappeared. Rivals ran past Shaoyan, shouting that if they want to say goodbye to life, they need to speed up. The guy noted to himself that, judging by the clothes, these were students of the Cloud Sea Gate. This is a pretty strong sect, although they are not among the top 4. Why are they running away? You need to keep an eye on them. Meanwhile, the guys begged not to come close to them. They will give him the talisman and leave the competition. Just let him have mercy. When the artifact was thrown directly into the hands of Tianguan, he stated that the guys seemed smart, but intelligence alone was not enough to survive. Then he added that the talisman was now in his hands, so he no longer dared to detain them. When the young men began to evaporate, our hero thought to himself that they had simply disappeared, or that a new location had opened for them. Suddenly, the formation in front of the young man began to glow brightly, as if it had been activated. A moment later, he found himself in another location and noted that they had definitely moved. But who was the guy who was chasing them? Which sect does he even belong to? Turning back, our hero saw that they were all dead. It looked like that person was a very strong cultivator. Shaoyan must be on guard. It seems that this is a dangerous location, and it is also better for him not to meet other participants. Having opened the doors to the building, the young man saw that same man right in front of him and noted that fate was clearly not favorable to him. The young man noted that something was wrong here. He just stands there and does nothing, as if something is holding him back. He doesn't seem to care at all about Gu's presence. Maybe he was just waiting for the guy to come. His clothes are torn, the man clearly just fought, but these marks on his skin do not look like wounds from a sword. When the young man took a small pebble and threw it at him, it turned out that there was a protective sphere or a wall around the stranger, and everything around was a labyrinth. Suddenly, Qianlan appeared and exclaimed what our hero was even doing in this place. Our hero immediately rushed to attack him, but the captain immediately said that he was not going to fight him. Shaoyan noted that last time they fought tooth and nail, and now he's afraid to fight one-on-one, so what? Lan replied that at that time he, as the leader, was given the order to detain him, but now the elder retreated. Plus, the guy doesn't support Cho's approach to solving problems, so everyone thinks he's a villain. The captain promises that he will not interfere with him in the Ghost Zone. Everything he said was absolutely true. The young man hid his sword and said that he would just take his word for it this time. Qian asked what was going on and who was this guy. He saw the bloody bodies of Cloud Sea sect members at the entrance to the location. Is this really his doing? Our hero replied that he did not know. The guy followed them, hoping to stop him, but did not have time. The captain once again emphasized that he did not wish him harm and hoped that the problems between them were over. But suddenly the man disappeared somewhere. Shaoyan realized that as soon as he stepped onto another cell, he immediately disappeared, followed by that guy. It turns out that each cell is a portal to another dimension. But then, how did the guy move from one cell to another? What if this requires understanding the changes in space located within each of them? One way or another, there must be a way out of this labyrinth. Suddenly, Lan reappeared and exclaimed that he was lucky to not go back on his words. How dare Gu even deceive him? The young man replied that it had absolutely nothing to do with it. Then he asked where he had been transported. The man exclaimed that he was in a hellish place with a sea of fire. He almost burned to death. Xiaoyan noted that that guy also stepped onto another square and disappeared after him. Apparently, this is all one labyrinth, where each cell is a separate location from which there is only one way to get out. The captain of the Heavenly Wind Valley asked where they should go next in this case. Our hero replied that he didn't know. This place consists of identical black and white cells. They do not have any specific pattern. The young man was indignant that then what was the point of wasting time on empty talk? If you don't know the loophole, then the only way out is to use force. He can stand and think further, but Qian went. Xiaoyan thought to himself that the labyrinth consisted of identical cells without any pattern, but if he found a jade talisman, perhaps it would show the way. Our hero decided to follow Lan's example and took a step to the next random square. After the guy disappeared, Qian immediately appeared, who stated that he had moved one more cell forward. Apparently, Gu decided not to stand still. He will cope if he chooses the same route. Then he chose another cell and found himself in a location with some huge stone statues. The guy looked around and thought that he didn't see any dangers. How can we get out of this place now? But suddenly, these sculptures began to move and at the same time head straight towards him. Having barely managed to jump aside from one of the blows, the man thought to himself that he was afraid that he would not last long. There must be some way to stop them. Then it dawned on him that he needed to find a jade talisman. With him, he will definitely be able to defeat them. Suddenly, the voice of the same stranger was heard, who demonstrated the artifact and asked if this was what he was looking for by chance. The guy was indignant that it was the young man who was controlling them. Let him stop immediately. The stranger replied that all this time he had been thinking about how to find him, and he himself came to him, the leader of the Heavenly Wind Valley named Qian Lan. The captain was very surprised and asked how this man could even know him. The man replied that he not only knew him, but also wanted to kill him, and the sculptures would perfectly help him cope with this. Lan shouted if he served the Sky Castle. Did the Elder Cho order to get rid of him? Why at all, really? Because he didn't want to join them. The stranger replied that he guessed it very quickly. Now, let him prepare to meet his death. The young man was not going to give up so easily and exclaimed that they would still see which of them would die, after which he began to try to get closer to this impudent stranger in order to deal with him. But 3 huge sculptures came to his defense. The guy noted to himself that if he continues to run away, he will quickly come to an end. Therefore, we need to quickly deal with their puppet master. Suddenly, an opponent appeared behind him who asked with mockery in his voice if he had lost it. Meanwhile, our hero found himself in this location, did not understand what was happening and why these statues were lying on the ground. Then he caught sight of the captain of the Heavenly Wind Valley, who was bleeding from his mouth, after which the young man turned to the stranger and asked if he had done this to him. The man feigned a friendly greeting to him and noted that this was the same rat that was following on their heels. Did he really want to say goodbye to his life? Lan told him to be careful, as that man was controlling the stone statues with a jade talisman. They cannot be defeated. Xiaoyan muttered to find out that he was not doing this for his sake, but he just needed a talisman. The stranger was very amused by this. He showed him the artifact and said that if the guy wanted it so much, then let him try to come up and take it away. Our hero replied that he asked for it himself and began to make his way through the statues with the help of the sword's intention. Finding himself near the enemy, Xiaoyan dealt him a powerful blow, which he no longer had time to dodge. The captain of the Heavenly Wind Valley was very surprised and did not understand how he managed to do this. The opponent took the talisman in his hands and ordered all the sculptures to simultaneously deal with it. But the stone statues had not even managed to get close to him when the young man immediately took advantage of the intentions of the sword of the first sun, after which there was a powerful explosion and the blast wave demolished everything that was around. When the smoke cleared, only debris from huge stone monsters could be seen on the floor. Then our hero approached the young man and said that he believed that their battle would be much more interesting. Having taken the talisman from him, Gu immediately warned Lan that he would not get the artifact. The man replied that he had no intention of taking him away. I just didn't expect him to become so strong, after which he thanked him for his salvation. The young man asked if he knew who the stranger in the mask was. Qian replied yes. He didn't expect the elder to make a deal with the Sky Castle to kill him, but there is no need to worry. As soon as they get out of here, the man will report everything to the elder. The guy noted that at least he was now ready for the next attack. They won't stop, so be careful. And it's time for him to go because he has some things to do. The captain of Heavenly Wind Valley asked if the young man knew how to get out of this place. Our hero replied that there is one way, but if he wants to leave the labyrinth with him, he must promise him something. Once they are outside, let them take just one look at his jade talisman. After the guy was indignant, with what joy, Gu noted that he did not trust him, but it didn't matter. Let him stay in the maze then. But as soon as the young man took a step, they both moved to another location. Lan took out his talismans and said that he could look at them. But is he really just looking? Maybe some valuable thing is hidden in them or something else. Our hero took the artifacts in his hands and said that he does not reveal his secrets to everyone. As he absorbed his attributes, the young man thought to himself that taking his promise was the right choice. After returning the talismans back, the man looked at them and thought that strangely, nothing seemed to have changed. Gu said goodbye and said that they would see each other at the end of the test. Meanwhile, Saya stood near the lake with a huge toad and noted that Bei Linyan was on the other side. The guy said he didn't think they'd run into each other in the ghost zone. Apparently, this is fate. Therefore, how will they decide which of them will get the jade talisman? The girl asked in surprise what he was talking about. There is no jade talisman. Bei told her not to act like she didn't know what he looked like. She somehow got to this place. Most of them are hidden in the most dangerous locations of the ghost zone. Now they are in a swampy area in the middle of which this giant beast sits. Most likely, it is he who guards the jade talisman. Since you muttered that who would have thought that they would have to fight in the final round? The young man replied that sooner or later this was bound to happen anyway. When Sire attacked him, the young man began to raise a whirlpool from the lake with the help of his magical abilities. The girl noted that he had clearly improved his heart technique. After all, in just a split second, he created this huge ice field. The opponent was not going to stop there, so he decided to use the blizzard technique, which envelops the skies. Suddenly, the guys heard a dull bang and turned around to see a talisman fly out of the toad's mouth. The young man who caught him said thank you, because thanks to them, he received the jade talisman without any effort. When asked who he was, the guy replied that it didn't matter, since they would soon end. Bei Linyan rushed to attack him, shouting that let him know the mighty power of his sword. But the stranger stopped his sword with 2 fingers and prevented him from harming himself. Sinsu decided to intervene and exclaimed that she was the senior disciple of the Sinyon sect and was challenging him to a fight. But the enemy simply stopped her with one hand without making much effort, after which he stated that both of them were no match for him at all, so there was no way they could win. But the sister was not going to give up, so she began to call upon the sword technique of the lone killer. The attack lightly grazed the relaxed opponent's cheek. He did not expect such a turn of events. The guy replied that it was not bad. She managed to wound him, but unfortunately, Saya is still far from reaching his sphere. These techniques are insignificant against his absolute power. Now it will come to an end. But suddenly our hero appeared, shouting that it was his turn to show what he was capable of, after which he introduced himself as a disciple of the Sinyon sect. Whoever decided to harm his sister would have to deal with him. Then I asked the girl if she was okay. Saya asked in surprise how Gu even ended up there. Xiaoyan replied that it didn't matter. The main thing was that he had time, otherwise they might not have seen each other again. The man remembered Sei telling him that the center of the ghost zone would be in charge of the ideal person for the job. After which, it dawned on him that it was him. Then he decided to take a moment and check what kind of cultivator Yuchen had chosen, since our hero did not know him by sight. Therefore, he said that another one had appeared who wanted to say goodbye to life. The young man, with a challenge in his voice, asked what if he was the one who died. The girl shouted that there was no need to provoke him. That guy is much stronger than her. He will not be able to defeat him and will die. Gu pointed the sword in his direction and said that now they will see which of them will become the winner and which will be the loser. After which the young man jumped up sharply and decided to use the sword intent technique. The enemy began to run towards him and asked that he really wanted to use such a slow technique against him. Could it possibly work? But when the man approached him, our hero simply suddenly disappeared somewhere. In just a second, Xiaoyan was above his opponent's head and activated the lone assassin's sword technique. The girl was very surprised because it was a powerful blow. "How strong has my brother become?" The man noted that even he admits that the young man is good. Gu is talented and quick to react. Sei made the right choice. Having become a cultivator of the Heavenly Palace, our hero will soon be able to reach the level of the 4 heavenly officials. It seems like their plan might actually work this time. Xiaoyan asked the question, what about his sister? Will he leave her alone? Because she is not to blame for anything. The stranger replied that he understood that he wanted to be the hero who saved the beauty. There are no problems. The man will simply pretend that he lost to him and leave the battlefield. Suddenly, the young man made an expression on his face as if he had seen something terrible and shouted to his sister to be careful. When the enemy turned to see what was happening there, Gu pierced him right through with his sword. The man hissed that he had really decided to fool him. Does he even know what consequences he will now have to face? The guy retorted that would anyone care when he died? After which he rushed to attack him, shouting that such garbage should not walk on the ground. But the opponent put up a defense that pushed our hero away. When the guy was thrown back some distance, the sister decided to go to his aid and attack the enemy. But the man was much stronger than her, so he began to form an energy ball in his hand in order to kill her. Xiaoyan realized that something urgently needed to be done, so he summoned the sword intent of the first son and struck the heavenly official to death. Bei couldn't believe his eyes that this guy was able to destroy such a strong cultivator. When did their sect grow so much? Taking out his jade talismans, the young man thought that he did not expect that this guy would have as many as 5 pieces. Now thanks to them, Xiaoyan finally sees a way out of this spatial field. Saya said that he was a very powerful cultivator, probably already reaching the middle of the Dantian rotation sphere. She is very surprised that the young man was able to defeat him because they have different levels of training. Gu replied that it was just luck that he was able to pull off a surprise attack. Our hero doesn't think he could handle him in a real fight. Then he asked if he could look at her talismans. The sister became wary and asked why. Perhaps there is something hidden inside them. The guy replied that each talisman has an unusual pattern. Perhaps if you put them together, you can reveal the secret of the ghost zone. He thought to himself that this was all he could tell her. The girl handed him the attributes and said that he only had 2 pieces. The young man said that they were absolutely part of a scheme that, if assembled, would allow them to break through the ghost zone. But unfortunately, this was not enough. If he could get 2 more talismans, then he would have everything he needed to do this. Bei shouted why Saya was staring at him like that. Did she really want him to sacrifice his jade talismans? The girl hissed at him to stop talking nonsense and give them to her immediately. The guy objected that even though they were outnumbered, he was still not afraid of them. The sister still managed to take them away, and she told our hero that, it turns out, he had collected 1 more talisman than she did. The young man was indignant that why not just admit that they were incredibly lucky with him and be more polite. Since you asked what the result was, did you manage to solve the mystery of the ghost zone? Xiaoyan replied that almost. Let him follow him. I thought to myself that I had already collected 16 jade talismans, and this should be enough to get to the center. Bei stated that Gu is becoming more persistent and suspicious, so he is keeping an eye on him. The young man immediately threw all the talismans back to him and said that he no longer needed them. After which, he added that it is now clear what a well-known, incomparable genius Linyan really is. The guy thought that he was immortal. Then the young man gave his sister all the jade talismans that he had collected, and she asked in surprise where so many came from. Gu explained that he obtained 4 himself, and the rest were in the hands of the official. I thought to myself that I received 1 from the lake monster and 3 from Tiangun's subordinates. The sister exclaimed that he worked so hard, so she couldn't accept it all. Our hero replied that she had really forgotten that he had no right to participate. Everything is fine. Besides, he has more important things to do in the magic array. When Saya asked what else was going on, the young man replied that it was a long story. In short, he needs to get to the formation as quickly as possible. Since you asked if he knew the heavenly official who was mentioned earlier. Is his brother somehow related to him? Gu replied, yes. It's too dangerous for her to go it alone, and this competition no longer makes sense. Something may happen soon that could endanger the entire Yuan kingdom. Meanwhile, the princess was waiting for the players to arrive and asked a subordinate how long they had been waiting. Hearing the answer that 1 hour, the girl asked the question how long it took the fastest player of previous years to get to the center of the ghost zone. The man replied that 2 days, but the largest number of talismans was collected by the one who completed the test on the 3rd day. The difficulty is to collect as many artifacts as possible, so some participants set up an ambush near the center of the ghost zone. The closer to it, the bloodier the battle. When she was told that the real battle had only begun today, the 2nd day of the competition, and that Her Highness had better return to the palace and rest, Yeonkin agreed. But suddenly, the dissatisfied voice of Bei was heard, asking where they had wandered, because there were only thorns all around. Sire exclaimed for him to shut his mouth. They didn't drag him along. The guy grabbed onto himself. The first to appear was Linyan, who declared that they had finally left this forest. Seeing the Imperial Guards, he was surprised that they had really reached the center of the ghost zone. The examiner asked who he was, so he should immediately introduce himself and tell him which sect he belonged to. The young man replied that his name was Bei, and he was a student in the village of Northern Snow. The man smiled and congratulated him, saying that he was the first to reach the center. But the winner replied that he did not come alone. At this time, our hero came out of the forest along with Sire. The princess turned around and asked in surprise what Gu Xiaoyan was doing here. Meanwhile, Si informed his subordinates that they were already at the center and clarified whether they were ready to start everything. The guys replied that yes, everyone had taken their positions and were waiting for instructions. When Yuchen asked where Lao San is now and why he is still not there, the samurai replied that most likely he was having fun somewhere, as usual. The man was indignant that it was the same thing every time. If because of him the gods have to postpone such an important event, then he will be in trouble. Bei stated that he did not know that Gu personally knew the princess of the Great Kingdom. As Sire thinks, they just haven't seen each other for a long time and decided to chat or something else. The girl was indignant at what kind of nonsense he was talking about. In the village of Northern Snow, everyone is such a gossip. Or is it just him? The guy replied that he thought she was also interested, since she had been looking in their direction for half a day. The sister did not have time to respond, as the guards reported that someone was approaching them. The heavenly official who appeared stated that it seemed that he was not the first to reach the finish line. The examiner noted that he knew him. He was a newcomer from the Heavenly Wind Valley. Now the young man can give him the collected jade talismans, and he will learn the results of this round in 3 days. Looking around, Sei wondered where the bloody hawk was. There were no changes to the plan. They must have suspected something was wrong. Noticing that the participant was confused, the man asked if he had any questions. Then he added that if he wanted, he could spend these 3 days in this place. But suddenly, the young man grabbed him by the throat and hissed that no one dared talk to him like that. When the examiner lost consciousness, the young man simply threw his body aside. After this action, his accomplices realized that it was time to start. Therefore, we decided to act according to plan. Bei was angry and shouted who he was to mindlessly kill people. Does he really think that the royal family will just let him get away with it? The heavenly official did not even respond to this, but simply attacked him with the help of his magical power. When the man wanted to switch to the girl, our hero appeared and ordered him to stop. But the attacker quickly teleported to her and grabbed her hand tightly, after which he stated that Gu was still here. Xiaoyan shouted that he would not allow his sister to be touched. Let her go immediately. Meanwhile, the samurai reached the point. One of them asked where the Bloodhawk had gone. Yuchen replied that he must be somewhere nearby. Let them inspect the entire nearby territory. The young man stated that it looked like someone had screwed up. The King of the Stars will not leave this so easily. The guy replied that the heavenly officials began completing the task at the same time, so not only he would be punished. Now the success rate is 70%. They may still have time to grab him. The young man replied that he would do his job, but if Sei did not open the underground palace before the King of the Stars arrived, the gods would not be able to help him. Our hero said that he had just reached the center and was ready to keep his promise, but he would not leave without his sister. When Yuchen asked why he should believe him, Xiaoyan replied that he had the right to choose what to do and whether to believe him or not. The Heavenly Heart illusory zone is completely under their control, so there is nowhere for him to escape. He just doesn't want his sister to get hurt. The man replied that okay, their agreement remains in force. Let them open the center, as they decided earlier. But if he decides to pull off one more trick, he will suffer the full wrath of the King of the Stars. The young man replied that there was no need to worry. Gu also wanted to see what the legendary Suan Palace looked like. Suddenly, everything around darkened, and a passage began to appear between two huge statues. Saya noted that it looked like some kind of portal. The guy replied that he knew that one of them was located in the kingdom, but did not think that there was a second one, hidden in the ghost zone of the Heavenly Heart. She explained that in addition to the key to the gates of the underground palace, the soul of King Suan is also located there. Its strength depends on the number of people entering it, so they cannot use group tactics. In general, he advises the young man to go alone. Our hero replied that he would do so, but he could not leave his older sister with them. When they went inside, the girl stated that this was the right place. It looks pretty creepy. The young man agreed with her and said that it seemed that this was the gate to the underground palace. Since-Yu noted that she doesn't see any lever or anything like that, so how will they open them? Suddenly, a formation near the guys lit up brightly and a person began to emerge from it. It was none other than the soul of King Suan, who raised his sword hand up. At the same instant, the stones in the heads of the statues glowed brightly, and they slowly began to come to life. The girl said there were too many of them. Her strength is not enough to defeat everyone. The young man did not waste any time and decided to use the intention of the sword of the first sun, just like last time. The powerful energy immediately affected the stone sculptures, which simply began to crumble before our eyes. My sister was shocked and didn't understand when he even managed to train like that. Our hero shouted that now was not the time to talk. Let them pay attention to the fact that something more powerful is approaching them. The young man shouted that he was just a piece of stone, so he could be dealt with in no time. Saya noted that this technique is a direct breakthrough. His level is even higher than the realm of condensed truth. Meanwhile, the spirit of the king rushed to attack the guy. Xiaoyan noted that he had finally decided to prove himself on the battlefield. Gu realized that this ghost's sword energy was several times more powerful than his. The power is simply incredible. The girl rushed to his aid, shouting that she couldn't just stand by. But a powerful opponent noticed her and immediately struck a blow, which she did not have time to dodge. Our hero took advantage of this wonderful chance and quickly reached for the king's attribute. When the young man absorbed the energy of the attribute, the girl looked at him in horror and did not understand what was happening. The sister immediately noticed that the king's soul was becoming weaker, but she didn't understand what exactly was happening. Now Gu Xiaoyan exactly repeated the movements of the ghost of the powerful Suan, after which the young man attacked his opponent with his own techniques and force. Disappearing, the soul screamed that this was impossible. How did this guy manage to defeat him? Since-Yu was surprised how her brother managed to mirror the king's technique and defeat him in one move. Noticing that the young man was completely exhausted, she grabbed him by the arm and asked how he managed it. Our hero replied that he was able to repeat the intention of his sword. At first he thought that he would not succeed, but luck smiled at him. Then he added that this jade talisman must be what the heavenly official needed. Now that the king's soul has disappeared, this place is filled with vital energy. They must absorb it as soon as possible. Once Gu recovers, they will deal with Xin. After some time, the guys returned back and our hero threw the talisman to the man. Yushin could not believe his eyes that this was indeed the same jade artifact. How did he manage to defeat Suan so quickly? After which he exclaimed that the guy is a real hero. Now they have the key with which they will finally open the gates of the underground palace. There is no need to waste time. All his subordinates have begun the gate opening ceremony. She stated that they were almost there. When they get to the treasure, Xiaoyan will also get his share. Bei exclaimed what to do now. It looks like they will actually be able to get into the palace. But suddenly, the princess's voice was heard, declaring that this would not happen. Let them give up. How did the minions of the Sky Castle even dare to attack the great country of Daiwan? The man exclaimed that soon the god of the stars would arrive at the gates of the underground palace and personally teach them a lesson. But suddenly, Gu materialized behind him and dealt him a killing blow. At the same time, he stated that he did not have a single chance. Not everything is under his control. He mentally thanked him for the space attribute that he had extracted from the storage ring he had received from Yuqian. The princess immediately ordered the capture of all the attackers who were involved in this. Then she thanked our hero for saving her and the Daiwan country as a whole. The young man replied that there was nothing special about it. He simply sent the message on time and did everything in his power. Bei asked the question, "Where are all the other cultivators of the heavenly palace that Se spoke about?" Yan Qin replied that they took care of it. Most likely, they have already been detained. She was just worried about Shaoyan, so she came to them. The guy immediately asked for forgiveness and said that he had to help his comrades. The sister added that she too had to go. She wanted to check if Master Lei was okay. When the guy shouted to Sia to wait for him, the princess took him by the sleeve and told him not to worry, because she would go with him. But suddenly, a powerful explosion was heard behind the guys, and turning around, they saw an energy flow. The man thanked Gu and said that the guy had made an invaluable contribution to the common cause. He promises that upon returning to the Sky Castle, he will treat him in the best possible way. The princess noted to herself that, apparently, this was the same god of the stars that the young man was talking about. The villain, when he saw her, noted that he thought that 4 heavenly officials would be enough to catch the bloody hawk. But it seems that he underestimated her power. After which the man added that now he wants to get the girl even more. When our hero tried to attack him, the god of the stars threw him aside like some kind of insect. Shaoyan grabbed the princess's hand and said that they needed to escape as quickly as possible. The enemy rushed after them, shouting that no one could escape from under his nose. Once in the dungeon, Yan asked if this place was an underground palace. Will the god of the stars follow them here? The guy replied that there are quite a lot of passages there, and besides, the palace is still part of the ghost zone, so they're safe there for a while. When Sin asked how they would get out themselves, the young man replied that there was no need to worry. He will lead them out, but first they must try not to get into a fight and break away from the King of the Stars. Suddenly they heard some noise and saw the guards of the tomb behind them. They had all reached the final stage of the Ninjgen realm. There were a huge number of them, which gradually surrounded our heroes from all sides. Go noted to himself that this was incredible luck. This is the first time he sees so many attributes in one place. If he manages to extract them, he will reach the Dantian rotation area. The princess looked at them and gradually came to the conclusion that she would not be able to kill them all. The young man exclaimed that there was no need to worry. He will do it all on his own. After which our hero approached one of them and began to take away his attributes. When the guardian disappeared, the guy noted to himself that he knew that they would evaporate as soon as he removed their attributes, because the energy supporting their souls would dissipate. The girl came to the conclusion that it seemed that the guy would easily defeat them. As soon as he gets closer, they immediately weaken. How many secrets does this young man keep within himself? Even then, in their first meeting on Mount Silion, she realized that he was special. In just 6 months, from a child with an 8th level of Ki study, Gu turned into a strong cultivator. Maybe he is exactly what she needs. Our hero thought that he had now collected enough energy attributes to move to the next level. The king's tomb served as the foundation of enlightenment for him. The princess congratulated him on reaching the final level of condensed truth. He is now ready to open the Dantian spin sphere. The young man replied that he thought that if he could, it would only make Her Majesty laugh. He simply felt the energy emanating from the guardians of the tomb. The girl said that it is necessary to discard all these titles. From now on, let him call her Yan King. Throughout her childhood and youth, she was considered cruel, but he alone, it seems, never allowed such a thought. This is the first time she has been cared for like this. The guy replied that he just wanted to repay her for saving him then. In addition, Gu does not believe that her second personality, called the Bloodhawk, is a curse. Meanwhile, the subordinate turned to His Majesty and reported that the army was ready to carry out his orders. The man replied that it was wonderful. Even if all the mountains are turned over, it is necessary to find the princess. The insignificant minions of the heavenly palace dared to go against the Dayan kingdom. He will make them pay for this. Putting on the mask, he added that after so many years, the god of the stars had finally appeared. Very soon, the king will get to him. After some time, the guys reached the grave of swords. They came to this conclusion because there were too many of them around. The girl said that she did not think that she would also be guarded. But its guardian is different from the previous ones. His abilities reach the Swandan sphere. Our hero replied that he is more concerned not with himself, but with the sword in his hands. It is he who fills him with strength. The princess exclaimed that the legend was true and his sword actually had a soul. The young man did not understand what she was saying and asked to clarify what other legend was. Jan explained that people once discovered dozens of fake tombs. There were rumors that only by taking possession of the sword with the soul could one become the owner of its true heritage. But unfortunately, that sword was not in those places. The guy noted that when he encountered the king's soul, he defeated him with the help of a celestial sword move. Perhaps it was once part of it. Having received the sword with his soul, there will be a chance to reach the Swandan sphere. But suddenly the god of the stars rushed past them and quickly headed towards the guardian. The man, even without a fight, instantly took possession of this sword. Then he stated that it actually contained the real soul of King Suan. Now, he will finally become the new king. When the princess screamed that this would not happen, the guy stopped her with one hand. Sin was outraged at what he was doing. They can't let him have this sword. The young man asked if she found all this strange. A minute ago, this sword was still in the hands of the keeper. Is it really that easy to take away the king's legacy? The girl replied that she agreed with him, but they still can't let him go so easily. The man said it was just funny. Do they really think that a few stupid phrases will make him give up his sword? Our hero replied that one way or another they would soon find out whether his assumption was correct. Jan thought to herself that perhaps he really decided to simply mislead the king of the stars. The enemy continued that their blood would help him improve the sword with the soul of Suan. Suddenly, the divine general of the southern region appeared and said that he was afraid that this was another fake tomb. But now, he sees that this is not so. The last time they saw the god of stars was several years ago, when he tried to steal Princess Sinyuan. The man replied that the blood hawk sits still and waits until it is caught, because that is what it was created for. Someone else might try to do it too. The general said that he was not here to argue. Let him leave the sword with the king's soul and get out of this place. The god of the stars said that they still call him that. But does he really think that during this time the man has not become stronger? This time, he will definitely not lose. The deity of the southern region replied that it was not a matter of strength. He just won't let him touch the princess. Suddenly the girl exclaimed that enough was enough. No one dares to control her, neither they nor the Holy Land, even after death. After which the princess rushed towards the god of the stars in order to take the sword from him. As soon as she touched him, a magical reaction immediately began to occur. Yan Qin instantly began to absorb all the heritage that was in the ball, along with the king's soul. Our hero screamed for her to come to her senses and not let him consume her mind. But it seemed that the princess did not hear him and did not react to his words in any way. She was obsessed. The young man grabbed his sword and exclaimed that he would definitely save her. But as soon as he tried to knock the sword out of her hands, she immediately threw him back away from her. The guy noted that things were bad. He can only defeat her if he attacks with full force, but then the girl may get hurt. After he decided to use the sword intent, the princess was near him in an instant and pierced his body with the sword. The young man did not have time to react to this attack, since he did not expect her to do such a thing. The princess pushed him away from her with force, so much so that he crashed into the opposite wall. When Sin came close to him, he noted that he could only see attributes with a murderous aura that surrounded her. Why can't he extract the sword spirit attribute? It looks like the guy has no choice but to force it out when she attacks him again. When the princess swung her hand to finish him off, tears suddenly flowed down her cheeks and she muttered that she couldn't do it. Memories of the king telling her that she must remember that misfortune will always haunt her came flooding back to her. In the entire history of Bloodhawks, not one of them could live longer than 20 years. Some have even been used as a booster to take the owner to the next level. In the eyes of others, she will never be an ordinary person. Therefore, she wants her to know this from an early age. Unfortunately, she doesn't have much time left in this world. He cannot help her, and this knowledge of him as a father gnaws at him madly. The baby objected that she didn't want to die, but please let her father save her. The man replied that he was powerless, but let him know that the gods were never so cruel as to leave the hawks with nothing. They endowed them with talents. That's why her enemies want her so badly. Only she can save herself. Therefore, she must work harder to become stronger and grow faster. Only then will she be able to change her destiny. Then he asked what her next step would be. The princess raised her sword and shouted that she would not allow anyone to decide her destiny. The southern region divine general exclaimed that Sin could not control himself. She's going to apply. The girl is guided by the spirit of King Suan. He tells her to take the form of a bloodhawk. The young man said that he would not get the princess. Gu will fight for her to the last. The young man grabbed the sword with all his might, shouting that, although he was not able to remove the attribute, he could still pull his spirit out of the sword. A moment later, our hero managed to do it, and he breathed out a sigh of relief. Looking at the multicolored sphere, Xiao Yan wondered if this was the attribute of the sword with the soul of the king. In addition to the large number of sword intent points and aura, there was also some kind of liquid aura. The guy didn't understand what it was. It felt similar to the regular one, but cleaner and more condensed. Suddenly, Yan burst into tears and threw herself into his arms. She asked for forgiveness and said that she was very sorry. The girl didn't want to do this, tried to stop herself, but couldn't. The young man patted her on the head and said that everything was fine. She is not to blame for anything. Sin asked how he was feeling, if he was in pain. She will heal his wounds now. The guy replied that everything was fine. These are just scratches, he can handle them on his own. The Southern Sea Divine General, inspecting the sword, noted that it seemed that the spirit of this sword had disappeared. How did the young man manage to do this? The girl said that this was her father and his name was Yan Van. Now they will know each other. Gu replied that he was very pleased. The man said that the abilities of the younger generation are truly impressive. He didn't expect that he would be able to stop Yan from turning into a bloodhawk. Xiao Yan explained that he had the idea to extract the spirit from the king's sword. I wondered if he could subdue him while Qin was in his power. He tried to do everything carefully so as not to harm her. His Highness muttered in surprise that he really wanted to say that he had succeeded in extracting the spirit. The guy replied that he didn't know. At first, he felt some kind of energy penetrate his body, but then this spirit simply disappeared. I thought to myself that I couldn't tell them that I had extracted the attribute. The Divine General handed him the sword and told him to try putting his aura into it. When the young man began to carry out the order, a bright glow began to emanate from the sword. The man looked at him dumbfounded and stated that it was so. He received the spirit of King Suan and purified it. Then he turned to the princess and clarified whether this person was her chosen one. He seems to be very good. After which he turned to our hero and said that he would not forget what he did for his daughter. Upon returning to the palace, he will generously reward him for all his efforts. Gu replied that with all this fuss, they completely forgot about the rebels. Those people were going to attack the palace. He hopes that the masters and other disciples of his sect were not harmed. Van said no need to worry. All the rebels entered through a secret passage and found themselves in a ghost zone full of dangerous locations, so the outside world was not affected. After some time, the guy met with his sister, who said that they had been waiting for him for a couple of days in the palace and were very afraid that something had happened to him. He replied that he was fine. Chi suddenly appeared and thanked him for everything. Of course, it took her some time to regain her strength, but now she is completely fine. Then the voice of a subordinate was heard, who said that His Majesty would ask Xiao Yan and everyone else to go to the palace. Inside, Van invited everyone to sit at the tables, after which he said that those present were aware of the current situation. This year's competition was overshadowed by the invasion of enemies. But now the problems are solved. Everything is behind us. He hopes everyone learns their lesson. Therefore, he suggests celebrating this at the festive table. Our hero did not understand what His Majesty was talking about, so he clarified this question with his sister. Sire explained that it turns out Cho was in cahoots with their enemies. Even though he was dead when he was found, the king still ordered the destruction of their sect. Heavenly Wind Valley is no longer in the top 4. The young man replied that they themselves had chosen their fate. The eldest son started this whole mess, so they fully deserve it. When Van asked what the guy wanted for saving the princess, he replied that he was just lucky. As a reward, Gu had already received what he needed from the Yuan underground palace. Bei was surprised that he really managed to get there. It looks like he went to the underground palace with the princess. If the guy had not left then, he would also have had a chance to be there. His Highness replied that in this case, he would decide how to thank him, after which he stated that he was ready to entrust his daughter to him. How about becoming his son-in-law? He and his dear princess went through fire and water. They were even on the verge of death. They will make a perfect union. The master of the Green Cloud sect could not believe his ears. Was it possible that the emperor was inviting their disciple to marry Sin? Qiao was upset because she wanted Qi to be with him, but apparently Van also noticed how special Xiaoyan was. When the friend added that it seemed like Gu and the princess were made for each other, the girl shed tears and muttered that she didn't particularly like him. Having heard no reaction from the young man, His Majesty asked that he was not grateful for such an offer. The young man replied that he was very grateful. It's just a huge step for the two of them. First, you need to tell the master from the sect about this because the decision depends not only on him. The man exclaimed, "Why such difficulties? Isn't this the best opportunity of his life?" He is sure that Teacher Lin will definitely not mind. Soon, everyone in his sect would know this great news. The emperor will immediately send them invitations to the wedding. After some time, the princess asked him why he did not agree to the marriage at today's banquet. Does he really not like her? The guy immediately replied that she was beautiful and talented. She's the only girl like her in the whole world, so of course she likes her. But since she is too good, many people want to marry her. He is just a disciple of the Sinyan clan, so how can he be on the same level as her? If marriage is not what she wants and the young man rashly agrees, then won't he ruin her life? Besides, if Yan agrees to marry him just because he can save her from bleeding, then it's somehow wrong. Suddenly the princess pulled the young man towards her and kissed him deeply. Then she said that now he knows what Sin thinks about this. Since childhood, her father constantly sent her somewhere. If it were not for her will, how could he marry his daughter to someone else? In theory, she was supposed to marry only a prince from a neighboring state, but the young man made a mistake. She decided to marry him not because he could save her or because of his status. They met only twice, and both times our hero saved her. He had no reason to give her a helping hand, but he did it anyway. This is what the man of her dreams looks like. No one has ever treated her like this. Everyone approaches her only with a specific purpose. The young man hugged her tightly and said that he understood everything. Upon returning from Sinyan, he will save her. When Yan asked if this was true, the guy replied that, of course, he really likes her too. He will return back to his sect and report everything to Master Min, and then officially marry her. When they returned back, all the students were already whispering that the princess was really going to marry Gu. The master immediately congratulated the elder on the fact that he now had one more strong student. The girl immediately said that she had a lot to do, so she would go first to her room. Lin noted that she doesn't seem to be very happy, which is the matter. The man calmed him down and said that everything was fine, just a little jealous. The young man told Lei not to talk nonsense, because it was because of him that she walked like this all the way. The elder asked what they were talking about. The more he listens to this, the more confused he becomes. The teacher immediately hugged him and said that it was better to talk about this indoors. Lei then turned around and said that why don't he hurry up and console Sire? It is normal to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Gu was indignant at what kind of nonsense he was talking about. Sometime later, when our hero approached Sinsiu, she asked why he had come at all. Wasn't he going to prepare a bride price and marry the princess? The guy replied that he also didn't expect things to turn out this way. Who knew that the emperor would force him to marry right away? The sister replied that she joined this clan at the age of 8. 10 years have passed since then. Initially, she thought that they would fight all their lives, but unexpectedly, Gu decided to get married. Xiaoyan replied that he did not expect this either. Initially, he thought that they would follow the same path. But when I heard the king's proposal, at that moment, I was very surprised. Then the guy realized that he liked Sin. The young man asked her whether she was marrying him of her own free will, and having convinced himself of this, he was very happy since she also liked her. The girl asked what his plans were for the future. Xiaoyan replied that he would go outside and find out everything. The Southern Territory consists of only 9 kingdoms, and he wants to visit not only Yuan, but also others. The guy wants to go to all the remote places. Our hero will travel across all the mountains and rivers and then become the strongest in this world. Since Yu countered that, however, he was only at the true stage of immortality cultivation, although already in the Yuan kingdom, but still could not reach the next rank. The young man replied that who said that this was his limit? When he returns after the wedding, he will break into the kingdom of Suandan. Our hero already feels that he is about to reach a new level. Saya asked if he remembered that 6 months ago he couldn't even reach level 6. He was almost expelled from the clan. Gu replied that if he had not been given a second chance, he would not have what he has today. The girl replied that it was good. Then she will go with him to the kingdom of Suandan. If his level is higher than hers, then she will fulfill any request. The young man replied that they had agreed. Then, if his level is higher than hers, then she fulfills any desire, but if on the contrary, then he fulfills hers. After some time, the guards discussed that they were both going to the kingdom of Suandan. If someone had a higher level, then the loser would fulfill the request of the other. One of them noted that this was unfair. If Gu wins, he will be able to use it. Another replied that this was impossible, since the sister was the main student of the inner doors. Over the past 6 months, Shaoyan has advanced by leaps and bounds, and the kingdom has been pursuing Saya. He will regret this. Since the Suandan kingdom is no better than others, martial arts are an important part of the practice. The ranks are a scale. Only a combat master can reach the very top. If you stay at the 9th level of Suandan, then development becomes for life, and there will be no more opportunities to become stronger. This kingdom can be divided into 9 varieties. The vast majority of warriors mastered only the first 3. If you master 6, then this is enough for a person to be called a genius. In all 9 countries of the southern region, over the past 1,000 years, only a few people were able to reach the highest level, which is why Sister Saya was never in a hurry. Meanwhile, our hero has the opportunity to deal with the liquid aura. The absorbed life force turns into liquid, which is the best guarantee for him to reach the highest level. Others need talent or luck, which occurs once every 1,000 years, but he only needs to constantly absorb life force. With each drop of it, the level increases by 1 more unit. So as long as the guy continues to absorb life energy, he will definitely be able to cope with the heavenly pill. When the young man was at the outer gate, his income was only 5,000 stones a month. This resulted in him being able to extract attributes, but rarely had the opportunity to extract the highest grade. But the highest grade stone only absorbed a dozen pieces before it condensed a drop of liquid. Then he decided that he needed to slow down. After all, this is a reliable method. What is now indispensable is the Yuan stone. The emperor is right. If he insists on a dowry, then these stones must be converted into energy. A couple of weeks later, the elder asked if the girl meant that Shaoyan himself had suggested going to Suandan. Saya replied that it was precisely because of this that she also decided to go there. However, she was absent for more than half a month, and Gu, during this time, did not sit still. So she can't wait to ask the master to find a way to help her. The man replied that she had not cultivated for so long. Therefore, she must understand that if she wants to get there after all the conditions are met, she will need to understand the whole essence. Although Gu has excellent talent, it is precisely because of this that his strength grows too quickly and his understanding of everything that exists is slow. If he acts rashly this time, he can say goodbye to his life. It's all her fault. At that time, she was carried away by the competition, so she forgot and reacted only now. Xie asks the master to think about how he can be saved. Lin replied that he couldn't do anything right now. His influence on Suandan was worse than on ordinary people. He hopes that he can take advantage of this and become a little more aware in order to overcome the barrier. Suddenly, the skies above the sect turned black. Thunder began to be heard and lightning was visible. All the students realized that our hero had broken through to a new kingdom and was going to take a pill. The elder noted that in general it is impossible for people to have such power and cause chaos. When a powerful energy stream appeared straight from the sky, the girl could not understand what was happening. Then she shouted to the master that something urgently needed to be done to avoid this. But it was too late to do anything, since now the young man had lightning at his disposal. When it suddenly became light, everyone present could not understand what was happening. The sky changed just in an instant. The clan members immediately opened the doors to our hero's chambers and asked if everything was okay. The girl asked how he was feeling and what kind of thunderstorm it was just now. The guy immediately formed a sword that hovered around him and said that this was his weapon of immortality. The master asked in surprise where the young man got the real sword of immortality. The young man replied that it was all thanks to the soul of King Suan's sword, which he received, and also took advantage of the thunderstorm to refine it. Lei said that he had heard that only at the second level of Tiandan or above, a person has a chance to pass the heavenly test. If this is the case, then Gu has reached the second rank. There haven't been such talented students for a long time. The guy thought to himself that this is a sword pill refined from the soul of the king's sword, refined with thunder and lightning, and it has the properties of attacking with thunder. Now he is the only one of his kind. During this thunderstorm, he had already realized 40% of the Thunder Sword's power, but with the help of the pill, it became more powerful. This means that now his future lies with this sword, but still, you cannot tell details about it in order to avoid unnecessary troubles. Therefore, he said that it was just a coincidence that he was able to reach the second rank, and a sudden thunderstorm almost tore his soul apart. Sire congratulated him and said that there were only a few people in the Southern Territory for 500 years who could achieve this. His future achievements will be greater than that of the king. Our hero replied that looking at her, he understands that she has reached the level of Swandan, so he doesn't even know who is better. The girl replied that she had only mastered 4 varieties, and getting into Tiandan was even more difficult. This is a good result. The young man thought to himself that this was very awkward and began to look for some excuse to leave. But his sister stopped him and said that they had agreed that if he was higher in rank, she would fulfill any of his wishes, so let him speak. When our hero replied that he had not thought about it yet, the girl said that she would wait. Meanwhile, messengers came to the emperor and said that the 18-year contract had expired, so they came to get the Bloodhawk. His Highness asked what if he refused and did not fulfill the condition that had been given earlier. The man replied that they were just ambassadors. If Yan was dissatisfied with something, then they could go to Chuntian territory to discuss the matter. 18 years ago, the master was unable to correct the disaster that affected the residents of the southern region, so he signed an agreement with them. Now that the deadline has expired, let him think about his subjects. The princess came out to them and said that she would stop talking about nothing. She would just go with these people. As the emperor saw off his daughter, he thought that he really hoped that Gu would be able to make up for lost time after such news. Sin thought that it was a pity that she could not see him for the last time. Initially, she thought that she would have time to marry him before all this happened. But suddenly there was a cry from our hero about how she even dared to hide this from him. The young man immediately rushed to attack with the sword, intent of the light of the sun and moon. The ambassadors noted that this was quite interesting, since the sword was unusual. But after all, this is just the Swandan kingdom. After no reaction occurred, the emperor came to the young man and simply took him aside. The guy said that Yan prevented him from taking the princess. Does he know what the consequences will be? The man replied that he should know something about Sin. On her birthday, she had an appointment with Chuntian, and now her contract is about to expire. The young man hissed that the emperor saw that he had the ability to suppress her Bloodhawk, but nevertheless, the man still gave her to heaven. Is he ready for the girl to become a valuable specimen for experimentation in their hands? His Highness exclaimed what he had to do. Is it really possible to exchange 3 million lives of the people of his country for her life? Yuan is just one of the 9 kingdoms in the southern region. For Chuntian, it is like a mosquito. When the man saw Gu, he thought that he was the only one who could pull them out of the sea of suffering. That's why I wanted to marry my daughter to him. She herself cannot wait for this, but there was no other choice. The young man replied that he did not want to listen to all this nonsense. The princess is his bride, and no one can take her away from him. When the emperor asked what he was going to do, the guy replied that they were completely different. Yan doesn't want to try to save her, but the young man will go. After some time, our hero caught up with Saya, who asked what happened and why he was there. The sister doesn't understand why he didn't say a word, but simply handed over this note and left. The young man replied that she should know. After all, he already said that sooner or later he would leave this country. Since you counted that it was 2 months ago. She understood that this would happen, but she thought that he would consider it at least within the realm of Shenhei or Swandan. The guy replied that he also thought that he would stay at least for a couple more years and would not leave until he reached a high level. But, unfortunately, everything happened differently. The girl asked if he was in a hurry so that Sin would not become his wife in the near future. Shuayan explained that the princess was taken away. Even the emperor could not fight back, saying that it was for the good of the people. The sister asked what he was going to do now. The young man replied that he was going to study in the depths of the mountains for some time and then go to Chuntian. When Saya asked if he was going back, Gu replied that he must first fulfill his promise before returning to his hometown. But what the guy promised her, he cannot fulfill, at least for now. The girl screamed that she would still wait for him to return to the city. If Shuayan goes to Chuntian alone, then she will follow him there. He will never be able to escape from her. The young man mentally asked for forgiveness and thought that he did not know what he would have to go through when he went there. If Saya is near him, she doesn't know what danger she will be exposed to. A year later, the Hanhei clan announced that the day of selecting disciples from different regions and sects had arrived. Everyone must line up to register. They will invite them to join the selection a little later. The guy told Gu that his father had already given him the position of elder. It wouldn't be better to stay for Sinsu's sake. Why should he be in this place, spend a lot of strength and energy to be a student in this kingdom? Our hero replied that he did not understand anything. The #1 master comes from the southern region, and in Chuntian territory there is a chance to explore everything. Suddenly, some big guy pushed the young man aside and ordered him to get out of the way. Chiao stated that he would not say anything more to him. In the mountains, he saved his life. The young man wanted Xiaoyan to enjoy life, but the young man insists on going to the mid-sky region, after which he handed over the letter of recommendation that his father had prepared. He doesn't want to suffer there. If Gu is willing to do this for him, then he will be happy, but whether this plan will succeed is another matter. The young man replied that he had the right to try whether he would succeed or fail. If Xiaoyan remains in these possessions and a friend wants to come to him, then he will repay him in full. But the young man objected that he never wanted to appear in this place again. When a member of the commission saw that our hero was from the southern region, he said that there was no more room for these people. Let him come another time. Chu was indignant that this is not the case. Every 5 years, disciples from the 4 major sects can be recommended. This is a letter of recommendation from his father. The administrator replied that the Hanhei clan belongs to the 3rd rank. They always respected strength. There have been no smart people from their region for many years. Our hero asked what if the people from the eastern region could not defeat him? Will they accept him then? The man said that if he could defeat him, the old man would pay for his entire education. Xiaoyan stated that in this case, if he wins, then no one from the eastern region will join this clan. The man asked if he was sure he was the one he wanted to challenge. Perhaps it would be better to fight the students instead of him. Our hero replied that it was too troublesome. The eastern region has many students. It's better to fight him so everyone else can shut their mouths. When the young man showed off his sword's aura, everyone present was shocked. The opponent stated that one should not consider oneself invincible just by cultivating Kui energy. Today, he will weaken it and show how great the difference is between them. Xiaoyan replied that it was okay. He hasn't fought anyone for a year now, so it's important to understand how much Gu has progressed. It is also very interesting to see what the master is capable of. Let him not be embarrassed in front of his students. Everyone present did not expect that his sword intent was so powerful. They know everything about weapon cultivation, but they have never seen anything like this before. The man exclaimed that he was just bluffing. He won't be able to hold on that long. After the attack, the master exclaimed that this was all. Even if you let him hit all day, Gu still wouldn't be able to destroy his defense. The young man replied that that was not all. Then he launched an attack twice as strong and faster. A committee member asked what was the point of wasting so much energy to demonstrate one's skills. Such a long-range attack that uses life force simply burns from the inside. The man exclaimed that if this is all he is capable of, then let him prepare for an answer. Our hero asked why he thought this was his only attack. Then he made a powerful blow. Then he decided to switch to close combat and rushed with a sword in order to break through the defense. When he managed to get close, he immediately knocked the sword out of his opponent's hands, so much so that it flew far back. After which the young man stated that his opponent still lost, and there was a lot of talk. But the man exclaimed that he had simply broken through his defense and could not defeat him. If you have watched this far, I am very grateful to you. I hope you enjoyed this video because I put a lot of effort into creating it. I would be very grateful if you like this video and subscribe to the channel.